West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't understand why
agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, it's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Colorado's blue, America's red. It all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where you're invited to be a part of the conversation. So give us a call. The phone line is 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Lots to talk about in the news today. Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, will join us on the future of President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Boy, oh boy, is Elon Musk angry and frustrated.
That was a surprise.
This is,
wow.
He posted a meme yesterday of that bus and then the train that hits the bus.
Yeah, at one point, I think the count was, they said almost like a tweet an hour is what he was rolling. Yeah, against the big, beautiful bill. That's a focus on Elon that we haven't seen in a while. Right,
and the meme says, money Doge has saved the government, and then slamming through the bus and pushing out of the way Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Yeah.
So clearly a lot of frustration. Then you have issues in the Senate. So what does this all mean? Is Trump's big, beautiful bill going to move forward? We'll talk with Rory O'Neill here in just a bit. Karine Jean-Pierre joining the Independents, leaving the Democrat Party, and now promoting her own book about problems in the White House.
This is stupid. This is so stupid. Okay, first of all, she's only making this move because she's trying to promote a book, and she's saying, look, everybody buy my book. I'm sorry. Okay, this is just personally. If you are the spokesperson for a political candidate, party, or when that party is in power and you're going to be the spokesman for that group organization, you don't get to come out and say, I'm an independent now. No. Here's the issue. If I sign on and I become the spokesperson for, I don't know, Phil Weiser when he's running for governor. Yeah, you can feel free to call me a Democrat because, that's what I'm doing. I'm throwing in with them. That's fine. And then if afterwards I claim, look, now I'm an independent again. No, throw rocks at me, mock me openly, in fact, pelt me with tomatoes when I go to the grocery store. It is stupid. You went and were the mouthpiece for the Democrat administration. Full stop. You don't get to come out and say, no, I'm going to give you the independent view at the White House. Shut up. You were the spokesperson. You were charged with saying the stuff you were supposed to.
Right.
You can't
You're
then
the
now say,
chief
yes.
voice for the Democrat Party.
Exactly. And the whole idea is you're there to promote and do the PR. None of us on either side are looking at you going, oh, she's obviously the best truth teller in the world. No, we know that everything that comes out of your mouth is supposed to be colored. It's supposed to be slanted. It's the same thing with Caroline Leavitt. Yes. And we judge them based on their ability to traffic in the BS. Now, I didn't like what Jean-Pierre did. I thought that she had tremendous frailties and failings in that job. But she's not the only one. Sean Spicer comes to mind. There are a whole bunch of others. But when you are the spokesperson and the PR mouthpiece for a political organization, you don't get to come out and, one, then claim to be an independent, two, get to tell you, here's my independent view of what I saw. Shut up. You were the PR mouthpiece. I don't care. I don't believe you. This book is trash, and I don't have to read it to say so. I don't trust you. I don't care. You should sit down and go away. This is just nothing more than a marketing move. Stop it. I really, in the core of my being, I hope this book fails on a level that I don't hope that many books fail. I hope no one reads this, and I want people to read more. I hope no one reads this book. I hope it's oh, God. I mean, seriously.
That is funny. I did not expect your reaction
Really?
at all to this.
That's fantastic. I love that. I can still surprise you, my friend, after all this time. I love that. Seriously, I was pissed. This is okay. I was at home yesterday afternoon. One of the kids is home. It's summer and stuff, and I saw this come across on my phone. I go, "Oh, this is stupid!" And I threw my phone against the couch, and that's an emotional outburst for me. And it's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "This stupid spokesperson for," and they're like, "You're mad about that?" I'm like, "Yes, this is dumb." I'm like, "Oh."
I always find it interesting when folks get where they are because of the good graces of others, right?
Exactly.
Like Karine Jean-Pierre was a nobody, and Joe Biden picks her. And look, once you see how the sausage is made, whether you're working in a church, whether you're working in politics, it's always dirty. And you got personalities, and you have conflict, and things fall apart, and that's going to happen because we're all dealing with human beings.
Yeah.
But to then turn around and make money, quote unquote, exposing what you saw there when you were only there because of the good graces of people. I'm not talking about someone being an institution and lo and behold somebody new comes in,
yes,
right?
That's different. Like totally different.
And maybe you disagreed with even them being hired or whatever it is. That's one thing. But I mean, when I worked for Rick Santorum, when I worked for Mitt Romney, I saw things, right? And none of it's super scandalous, but debates, frustration, anger, strategy disputes, all that stuff. You see it all. But I never tried to make money by quote unquote exposing it when I was only in the room because somebody else of much higher leverage was kind enough to put me in there.
Yeah. My wife had a long career in public relations, left eventually because the job was moving and we didn't want to go where the job was going. And so she left a decade-long career with the State Farm. She was in charge of public relations for 7 Western states. So she controlled public relations for part of the company. So I have a little bit of insight into part of this. And the issue is that over and over again, she had to say, I need to answer as the voice of the company. This isn't about me. This isn't about what I feel. This isn't about what I even think my company should do. I'm the voice of the company, and I need to represent it as so and do my best possible job doing that, ethically and morally. And that's what Jean-Pierre was doing. But then to come out and say, look, now I'm an independent. Shut up. I would not respect my wife for coming out and saying, look, this is what State Farm did and write a tell-all. But no, I don't respect that. In fact, this is the part is that Jean-Pierre got her position because of her ability to communicate a message. That's why she was allegedly put there.
Do you think that's why she got there?
Well,
Lauren Boebert. That's a different tweet.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that's why she was put there because if she was as bad as Sean Spicer, she wouldn't have lasted. So she was at least functional. And again, I have a lot of problems with her. I would not have placed her there and kept her there. I think there were a ton of frailties and problems, but she was chosen because if we tell you to go out there and say this, can you do it? Yes, she said, but I need a giant binder that I can flip through while I'm doing it. Okay, fine, we can make the binder. Romney had his binder full of women. We've got a binder full of stuff for you. So that's basically what happened. But it was about she was the mouthpiece. And now coming out, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think this claim of independence is crap. This is atrocious. Do not buy this book. Do not. And you should make fun of anybody who does. Absolutely. You should attack their choice of literature. Hand them a comic book or something afterwards. It's ridiculous. I'm a little mad about this.
That is, and it's interesting to me. All right.
I like that. I like that I surprised you. That's fantastic.
So that's just what we're going to talk about in the 7 o'clock hour. We're also going to be joined by John Decker, White House correspondent, who's going to be traveling with them. He's at the White House with the president as they welcome the German chancellor. What is that meeting going to look like? What are they going to discuss? We're going to get special VIP insight during the 7 o'clock hour from John Decker. Don't miss that. Plus, latest on the family detained by ICE, the family of the Egyptian, anti-Semitic, illegal alien bomber that firebombed Jews in Boulder. Judge blocking the deportation of the suspect's family despite visa violations. What are they doing there? This is another Biden judge stepping in the way and trying to keep the family here. And if you remember, we debated that for about 2 hours yesterday. We'll give you the latest on that. And then a report coming from the federal government on money spent on this California high-speed rail. And you'll be blown away by the amount of money spent with not a single track being laid. Why does this matter? Well, because they want to build the high-speed train in Colorado as well. So we'll get into that in the 9 o'clock hour. Lots to talk about, but now it's time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, 51 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 70 today in beautiful Colorado. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
We're going to make sure that these acts of terror do not win out. We will continue to proudly express our faith, whatever it is, our beliefs.
Governor Polis urging Coloradans to reject violence and anti-Semitism at the Boulder County Courthouse. That's where the terrorist Mohammed Solomon injured 15 people, almost burned 2 to death. He said terrorism does not win, so I'm sure he appreciates what 47 is doing. I am.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world.
DJT signed a proclamation fully restricting and limiting the entry of nationals from 12 countries. A federal judge is blocking the deportation of Solomon's family. On Wednesday, the U.S. District Judge issued a ruling that bars the Trump administration from removing the wife and 5 children of the terrorists from Egypt. The family had their visas revoked and was detained by ICE shortly after Sunday's attack. Hey, if you're not tough on illegal immigration, here's what happens. Fox News Channel last night.
According to the Justice Department, one of them worked at a laboratory connected to the University of Michigan. The FBI arrested 33-year-old Yu Qing Zhan for allegedly smuggling in a fungus called Fusarium graminearum, which could be used as an agroterrorism weapon. The gases from the fungus could cause liver damage, vomiting, and reproductive defects in humans and livestock. DOJ officials say Zhan has direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party, and she works at the University of Michigan, and her boyfriend is connected to a university back in China. FBI.
And this is probably occurring all over the country. So another reason for secure borders and to vet people. Karine Jean-Pierre, as Jeff and Billy were just talking about, has written a book and leaving the Democratic Party to become an independent.
Ben LeBold said it was a firing squad, and I had never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen a party do that in the way that they did, and it was hurtful and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can for this country.
Did everything he could. Here's Scott Jennings.
I'd like to congratulate Democrats for ridding yourselves of this untalented mediocrity. I mean, this is the most self-aggrandizing liar that has ever held this job. The White House press secretary is a sacred position, and she stood up there for years and lied through her teeth to the American people.
My friend, and she's not the first.
She is the literal worst White House press secretary in my lifetime. And what she did in the last year and a half of the Biden administration, cheap fakes, the entire cover-up around the president's mental faculties, she was in the center of it.
So you think she's doing this to launder herself?
So congratulations for getting rid of this, but Democrats deserve everything they're getting here for putting her in that job in the first place.
Yes. Thank you very much. Spot on. Crews are working to reopen a closed portion of I-70 west of Denver following a major crash on Wednesday afternoon. CDOT says I-70 is closed in both directions at the Eisenhower-Johnson Tunnel near Silverthorne to repair a long length of damaged guardrail and for cleanup operations. CDOT says Loveland Pass is open as an alternate route, while motorists can use Highway 6 as a detour also. Xcel Energy has restored power to thousands of customers in Aurora. The company said about 4,000 customers were initially affected by the outage yesterday morning. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Rockies have won 3 straight. Get out of here. They beat Miami on Wednesday. The Oilers come back to beat the Panthers in overtime in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals last night. That was a great game. NBA Finals, Game 1 in OKC tonight, the Pacers and the Thunder. 52 in Parker, 53 in Broomfield, 55 in Denver. Actually, it's 51 in Denver, and it is 50 in Broomfield and 50 in Parker. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Through Friday, it's going to be cool and unsettled here along the Front Range with more rain chances. Low to mid-70s today, partly to mostly cloudy with afternoon showers and thunderstorms lingering into tonight. Lows upper 40s to near 50. Highs only 60s and lower 70s, mostly cloudy with more showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday through Friday. Warmer for the weekend with lower thunderstorm chances. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, Fox headline, Elon Musk posts Kill Bill meme and latest push to nix Trump's big, beautiful bill. And it wasn't just that. That guy was super active yesterday. Here's another one. Elon Musk, America is going bankrupt extremely quickly, and everyone seems to be whistling past the graveyard. The Defense Department budget is a very big budget. It's $1 trillion a year. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year just in interest and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow every 3 months. And then soon it's going to be every 2 months and then every month. And then the only thing we're going to be able to pay is interest. And just like a person at scale that has racked up too much credit card debt, This does not have a good ending. We have to reduce the spending. Boy, oh boy, it's weird as a, quote, fiscal hawk to watch this come around, because we were having these debates and Thomas Massey's out there on the floor of the House, and I'm saying, and others are saying, that Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, that the big four have to be addressed: defense spending, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Because if you take those off the table in any budget discussion, you're left with 16% of the rest of the budget. It's like, you imagine as a family, you're racking up a massive amount of debt, and you're like, oh no, we're just going to ignore 84% of what's driving the debt and just try to deal with the 16%. So it's way too overextended, and it needs to be addressed with. Well, we go through the House. Mike Johnston is the mayor of Denver. Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House.
All the time.
So he squeaks it through. You think, okay, well, we're going to have some senators, and John Thune's going to have to deal with the same thing that Mike Johnson dealt with. But they'll probably pull it together because we're still paying Nancy Pelosi's budget. And Jeff Crank has made some good points on this show, going, guys, I'm not a king here. I'm one of hundreds of members of Congress, and either I've got to continue with Nancy Pelosi's budget, or we can make some important changes. This is better than what we're currently doing. So, yeah, I'm going to have to hold my nose and vote for it. And then from high in the top rope of a wrestling match comes Elon Musk flying in, angry because he feels that all the cuts he's made with Doge don't matter in light of this big, beautiful bill. And this riff has now gotten very public between Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Yeah, it has. In fact, put a note on this. Everybody should circle this, that June 5th, 6:22 in the morning, Bill Thorpe says that Elon Musk is right. I agree with Elon. He is right about this. Although I do think the conversation, unfortunately, becomes, depending on if you're talking to Democrats or Republicans, becomes a little myopic, because the focus is either on one thing or the other, and it's twofold. The solution to this is you need to cut spending, but you also need to increase revenue. And that's a problem, is that you only have one party talking about increased revenue, the other party talking about cutting spending. And you can't get there by doing one or the other. If you were this much in debt in your own personal life or in your business, you would have to approach it two ways. One, you would have to raise revenue. And two, you would have to cut spending. You couldn't get out of this kind of hole in a business or personally without doing both. It is not feasible. And for us in America to think that we can do it by either just raising revenue or just cutting spending is a fool's errand. And that's why the majority of these debates and conversations that I hear going on about the budget bill are completely and totally irrelevant, because they miss the entire point. Is inside this budget bill, you have an increase of the debt ceiling of $5 trillion for the next 2 years. $5 trillion. This is going to increase the debt by trillions. At least $3 trillion is what some of the estimates are looking at. Here's the odd part, is if you would actually implement these spending cuts and you would allow some of the tax cuts to expire under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, you could actually start paying down the debt. If you would just let all, and I'm not advocating for this, but I'm just saying mathematically, if you let all of the tax cuts expire from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I believe this thing becomes a revenue gain by almost $1 trillion, meaning that we could pay down our debt by about $1 trillion based on the spending cuts that are in this bill and the tax cuts would have to expire. I understand the pain inside the middle class, but there are ways to raise revenue based on where some of the money is going inside the tax cuts on the upper earners. But if we're not going to do that, you're not going to dig your way out of it. If you're not going to find a way to increase revenue, you're not going to. And that's what the CBO and other estimates have shown, is that this bill does cut spending, but it also decreases revenue. And that is a problem. There are positives. It can increase the GDP. In the short term, probably around 0.5%. In a decade, 1.5 to 1.7% based on dynamic scoring. That's decent. That's not bad. It could be more, it could be less. So I will give the bill props for that. But there is a problem. You can't get there. You can't get there without doing something with the revenue.
Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Do you support Elon Musk directly confronting Donald Trump and the big, beautiful bill? Or does Elon need to get in line and support the president? Well, joining us to give us some insight on the latest on this big, beautiful bill is Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Good morning, Rory. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Sure. Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Same to you. Now talk to us. There's a fight going on. Elon Musk has, as Jeff said earlier this morning, he's jumping off the top rope in the pro wrestling match, and he's delivering that massive Randy Macho Man Savage elbow drop to the big, beautiful bill. Is it going to work? Is Elon Musk going to be able to pull the swerve and get the pin and spike the bill?
Yeah, we don't know. It depends on how much these Republican senators really change the bill going forward. Some have concerns about adding to the debt. Some are concerned about cutting so much from Medicaid, thinking it's political suicide. I mean, even that's from Republicans. Others question sort of the rollbacks of some of the green programs that are in there. They want to slow down their rollback of tax incentives. So there's a lot of different levers that the Republican senators may pull here. Problem is, it then has to go back to the House for passage, and it barely passed the House, and they don't want to see it change too much. So let's see if this back and forth works. You know, they've set an internal deadline of July the 4th. But Musk, as you said, is calling for the whole darn thing to be thrown on the scrap heap and start from scratch.
Now, that's Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, talking about the big, beautiful bill, the chances it has of getting through reconciliation. Rory, got to ask you, how are the Democrats going to use the Byrd rule to take out provisions inside of this bill? What do you think's at risk? What are you hearing?
Yeah, you know, that really affects when it comes to legislation being passed through reconciliation. They don't need to have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. They don't need 60 votes here. Plus, they just need the 50, plus they'll have the vice president if they need in order to get this to squeak through. Again, some of the low-hanging fruit here is going to be that SALT tax provision. SALT is state and local taxes. People who live in high-tax states like California and New York and Illinois, they get to deduct what they pay in state and local taxes from their federal taxes. At least that used to be before the first time they passed these Trump tax cuts. They want to ump that number now to $40,000 worth of deductions. That costs about $350 billion in lost revenue over the life of the bill. Some Republicans say, oh, that's too high. And, you know, if you're a Texas senator, the argument is, why am I subsidizing the high tax policies of New York and California with my local taxpayer? So that $40,000 deduction could get lowered, but that's going to anger House Republicans in those purple districts in New York who fought hard in order to get that limit increased. And by the way, it's those House Republicans from purple districts who gave Republicans the majority in the House in the first place. So they do have a lot of sway.
That's Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Rory, Rand Paul saying, look, I might be able to vote for this bill if we could just break it up, maybe put it into some separate bills. Any chance that that may be happening?
That's possible. You know, if they do this idea of let's scrap the whole thing, it's possible. But, you know, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia, said, had I known some of these provisions were in this, I might have voted no on it. A lot of them complaining that this language arrived on their doorstep just hours before the vote, including a provision that says no state can pass a law regulating artificial intelligence, AI, for at least a decade. Green said, I didn't know that was in there. When did that happen? So, because the bill is almost 1,100 pages long. and that got snuck in there. And that may be some provision that comes out. Maybe it's separate. That could be a tactic, but they still want to get this done by the 4th of July.
Any word from President Trump on all this?
He had a meeting with Republican leaders yesterday. Obviously, he wants this thing passed. He has admitted it's not perfect, but says, look, this is the legislative process. Everyone's got to compromise somewhere. But he wants those tax cuts that he got passed during his first term. He wants those made permanent, and that's a big part of this legislation.
Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent. Thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill show this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Part of this, I think, is Elon Musk is learning just how much of a snake pit Congress is. And this thing is just totally made up of bag boys and girls for special interest groups, right? That get them elected. There's a reason why the suburbs around Washington, D.C. are the wealthiest zip codes in America.
Yeah, and all of a sudden when you enter Congress, you're a master trader.
Yeah, and they're all mansions, and they're all lobbyists, and they're paid huge fortunes because what industry learned was that you could pay one guy in Washington, D.C. to do work on your behalf and generate tons of revenue by skewing the law to favor you, right? And sometimes this is just one line in a bill somewhere could result in the way you grow your onions being favored by the government, and the way your opponents and competitors grow their onions can now all of a sudden be restricted by the government. Lo and behold, look, you just made a fortune. All we had to do was pay one guy in Washington, D.C. to do all this. So businesses learned that they could manipulate the marketplace by using government, and they put a ton of money into it. Think about every industry out there has a trade group that represents them. So what happens, you could start with a one-page bill. We're going to run a bill that says that the sky is blue. And lo and behold, by the time it's finished going through the committees and all these special interest groups that want to jump on, like to that point about Marjorie Taylor Greene, this big, beautiful bill, right, was supposed to be about tax cuts, has a line in there about no state can regulate AI for 10 years. Guess who put it in there? The AI lobby group, okay?
Yeah.
So you start with a one-page bill. Lo and behold, now you've added another 1,100 pages to it of crap to help special interest groups get their little projects passed. And lo and behold, you have this. But the problem is, if you don't do anything, we're still paying Nancy Pelosi's budget, which also includes Joe Biden's Green New Deal crap. So you don't do anything. This train and mountain of debt just continues right along the tracks. So,
yeah, it's hard, again, it's the idea of the NIMBY, but also don't gore my ox. No, I don't want to have X in my backyard, but also don't gore my ox. If I'm bringing the sweet, sweet federal money back to my district, it's very hard for me to then tell my voters I'm doing a good job by cutting off that sweet government cheddar. In fact, we're going to talk to a guy that's going to help us cut off the government cheddar.
Is that who I think it is?
Yes, sir, it is. We have got Greg Lopez on tap, and he's going to join us after the break.
Don't miss it. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Get ready for Greg.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill. We slam Congress, and lo and behold, a former congressman calls.
It's fantastic. And I love the fact that it's a former congressman, of course. That's an operative word here. Which is great.
You remember towards the end there of his tenure, Trump was pushing stuff with regards to spending, and Lopez was not going to deal with it.
Yeah,
in the sense he was not going to support it, willing to stand strong as a fiscal conservative. So to give us some insight, we didn't plan this. We just love the fact that he listens.
Yeah, this is cool.
Former congressman and now candidate for governor here in Colorado, Greg Lopez. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. It's great to be on your show, and it's an interesting conversation that you guys are having this morning. And as you guys may recall, I used to sit on the Budget Committee when I was in Congress. And so understanding the debt that our nation's under, and it is a huge debt, one of the things that I want people to understand that, for the last 40 years, Congress has only approved a budget 4 times. So these continued resolutions, these omnibus bills, all that shows you that Congress is failing in doing their job. And I'm going to tell you, guys, when I was there, the whole discussion I had with the Speaker, Mike Johnson, and the leadership was, we got to pass these 12 appropriation bills. This is where we cut. This is where we bring down some of the expenditures. I think I've spoken to you guys about the zombie bills that, are programs that are being funded that have expired, and yet Congress keeps funding them. And so until Congress gets the courage to recognize that they're there to serve the country and not worry about whether they're going to get reelected or not get reelected, and actually do the hard job of making those tough decisions, we're going to continue to see this continued debt just grow and grow and grow.
Got a question for you, former Congressman Greg Lopez and current gubernatorial candidate. I have this theory about, there's a part of the reason that I am in such daily aches and pains and have some of the medical issues that I have is because of stupidity in my 20s, teens, and early 30s, doing some dumb stuff. And at the time, I knew it was risky, and I always thought, oh, that's a problem for older Bill. Well, now older Bill is here, and it sucks. Do you think that part of the problem in Congress for not coming to an idea of a balanced budget or paying down the debt is that's a problem for future me? And I'm going to let future me deal with that because I'm only here now. And I may not be here when future me has to pay the bill. Do you think that's part of the mindset that's getting us into this constant overspend?
I totally agree with you, Bill. Look, if you look at what they're saying, right, it's always 10 years. In the next 10 years, we're going to save X. In the next 10 years, we're going to do Y. And nobody's there for the next 10 years. Or it shifts dramatically. And so, yes, they don't have visionary glasses. They focus on the legislative session, the calendar that they're in, and they're not looking beyond that 1 year. And that's a big problem that I see in Congress, is that they're not focusing on what is the future going to look like based on what we're doing today. So I think you're spot on.
I see it a little differently, and I'll get your response here. Greg Lopez, former congressman, now candidate for governor here in Colorado. I don't see things as broken. I see things as responding to incentives. So let's talk public education. Yeah, you can say public education's broken, but I actually think it's doing exactly what it aims to achieve right now, which is produce little Marxist activists. That's the goal of government-run education. And who funds government-run education? Well, state lawmakers fund government-run education. What do state lawmakers want? Do they want an educated populace? No. They want little Marxist activists. So they fund the schools. They set up the curriculum for the schools. They design the schools to go that way, okay? So I think government-run education is doing exactly what it aims to achieve right now. You just have to talk about where its incentives are and what its goals are. Let's talk about Congress, okay? Who funds Congress? Corporations, PACs, major donors, those types of things, who want to use Congress to push special little items to benefit its special little industries. Congress isn't responding to people. There's no incentive to address debt, and it has every incentive to deliver for the special interest groups that are funding it. What's your response to that?
You're not going to get an argument from me, Jeff, because that's exactly what's going on. Look, even Congress is not following their own rules. Congress passed the ability that, hey, we're not good. We got to have these bills 3 days before we vote on them. And you just heard it, right? Over 1,000 pages, and Congress did not have the ability to actually read it and review it before they voted on it. And you're right. Look, if you have an agenda and you want to accomplish that agenda, and that agenda is not for the betterment of the whole of the entire nation, then you will achieve what your agenda is by funding it. And this is where I struggle with some of the mindsets right now of the elected officials, and that is that they don't know truly the understanding of being a public servant. You're supposed to put country in front of your personal interest. And right now, too many are putting their personal interest in front of the country. And this is why we're struggling with this national debt.
Now, Greg, we only got about a minute left, and I want to get your predictions here. Do you think that this is just a tempest in a teapot, Elon Musk making some noise, the Senate's going to get around and support the big, beautiful bill no matter what, or could this thing fall apart and you end up with a bunch of separate bills? We got about 30 seconds. Give us your thoughts.
I think at the end of the day, because of the pressures and everything that's going on, I think they're going to cave and they're going to push it, only because of the deadline that they've kind of established, and they don't want to come across like they can't meet their own deadline.
That's former Congressman Greg Lopez, who did a great job serving the people, even fighting against his own party sometimes, down there in the at the national federal capital, and now running for governor of the state of Colorado. I've watched this guy for decades now. He is a true public servant, and it's an honor to have you listen and give us a call today. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet you guys take care.
So we've got You Choose News coming up. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's that time of the morning to bring you some levity and some craziness with You Choose the News.
Yes, it's the time of the morning where we take a deep breath and say, everybody sometimes is just as crazy as you and I. It is You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. I've scoured the interwebs for moments this morning to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them even more ridiculous headlines so that we can play this fake radio news game show. Why would we do this at 6:51 in the morning? Well, because Jeff and I are left unsupervised for the first 60 minutes of the show. And you better believe it, we are going to take full advantage. That's how we are wired, and we sure appreciate each and every one of you for playing along. And remember, those in charge don't know we're doing this. They don't wake up until 7 o'clock, so shh, this is a big secret. And of course, all of you troublemakers know that one of the best things to do is bring in other accomplices so you can spread the blame. That's why we bring in Blake Olson from the news department, just in case we have to blame somebody for this. Just warning you, Blake. I'm just letting you know. Here we go. Alrighty, my friends. Here we are, gentlemen. Your headlines this morning. Headline number 1, I'm a fun guy. Headline number 2, get her done. Headline number 3, how you doing? And headline number 4, it's a small world after all. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, your choice.
Start with get her done.
Yeah, get her done. We're going to Chicago for this one. A newly obtained video shows a DoorDash driver going above and beyond to complete the delivery. But he might have broken some laws at the same time as well. Wow. This happened recently at O'Hare International Airport because the DoorDash driver breached the security perimeter and failed to trigger a response by driving onto the runway.
Yes,
the delivery driver's red Hyundai Elantra is seen on the airport surveillance video pulling up just behind and to the right of you, United Airlines wide-body jet parked at the terminal. Then the vehicle parks there for about 20 seconds, backs up, pulls forward again, and decides to parallel park next to the jet. You don't park behind the car, you park next to the car. So they did the far parking thing. Baggage handlers did notice the driver and approached him. However, it took 10 minutes for a marked Chicago police vehicle to arrive. It's unclear from the video whether or not police or even airport security officers were notified at all. Doing a little bit of research, the private security guard that mans the perimeter checkpoint that said, the DoorDash driver went through here, said that they did not immediately report the breach to those in charge. Because why would they? Yeah, I know.
Why do that?
Exactly. Why would you possibly do that?
Dude, that's a whole new business idea.
I know.
Rather than spending a fortune at airport restaurants, right before you get on the plane, someone rolls on up with a little Mickey D's.
Dude, how cool would it have been to see the door open, guy walking down there, and then walk back up and you're like, hey, you can do that?
Yeah, I know.
Wait a minute here. I've been doing this wrong. Alrighty. Blake Olson, sir. I'm a fun guy. How you doing? Or it's a small world.
How you doing?
Yeah, how you doing? Hey, new studies are saying women using weight loss drugs are being urged to also use contraception because you're so schmexy that you're becoming pregnant more often. Well, maybe it's not that. It could be part of the fact that you're looking so darn good, but it also has to do with what the medication like Ozempic, Wegovy, and a few others do to your inside, specifically your hormones. The science hippies are saying there have been a number of reports of women getting pregnant while using these weight loss drugs. Now, It's not just because you're a badonkadonk, looks so good, and somebody's just got to have a piece of that. That's not it. In fact, what they found out, as some of these drugs are copying some hormones, and what happens is as your weight drops, your fertility increases. So when you start losing weight, your body gets excited and wants to get ready to have the bebes. So one of the side effects of doing some of these rapid weight loss drugs is your body's like, we're getting ready to push out some kiddos. So yes, that's one of the unintended side effects of some of these weight loss drugs is it seems to increase fertility in some women. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. It's
so again, you get skinny to get fat again.
Exactly. So again, if you're looking at maybe you're someone in your life is and you're concerned about this medication, do you really need a baby at this point in your life? I'm just saying. I'm helping out here. We're a helpful show. All right. Now, Jeff, final choice this morning, sir. I'm a fun guy or it's a small world.
It's a small world.
It's a small world after all. Yeah, a major incident has happened in Russia right now. The company that created the popular video game World of Tanks has been taken over by the government of Russia. it's officially been nationalized thanks to a court case. The Moscow City Court recognized the company as Lesta Games and said its founder actually was involved in some, maybe support of the Ukrainian armed forces during the war with Ukraine. And because they are doing that, the Moscow government came in and said, nope, sorry, your company is now ours. We are nationalizing your company. Now, in order to get away with some of this, what happened is, this is the idea. This is a game that is a battle simulator. And they found out that there was some use of this battle simulation for training with troops in Ukraine in the battle against Russia. Russia was mad about that, so the company spun off an entirely separate game and let that part still be played in Ukraine while still holding the other one in Russia and the rest of the world. Well, Moscow court says that's not enough. You are still the same company, but no more. Now the company is ours. So, yes, who knew? But again, if you're like the idea of what Putin does...
Soviet's gonna Soviet.
Yeah, exactly. If you like Putin and think he's a great guy and we should be more like Russia, remember, sometimes the government gets to take your company. TikTok. Just saying. Okay. Alrighty, that's it. You choose the news. Back to you, gentlemen.
Your company belongs to me.
Yes, it's now. This is the new. This is the new Russia morning news show. Here, this is the Jeff and Bilski show.
All right, Curry Jean-Pierre's book. We're going to talk next. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. We'll see you in a sec, comrade.
Well, it's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host. Dude, I can't. I'm going to laugh even talking about this.
Yeah.
Because it's so ridiculous, and it set Bill off in a way I've never seen before.
I threw my phone yesterday, and this is an irrational emotional outburst, and I own it. But this is stupid. Oh, this pissed me off yesterday.
Jean-Pierre, she's got a new book out, and she's leaving the Democrat Party.
God, it's just ridiculous. This is stupid.
I don't even think Republicans would want her. I think they'd be like, can we block you from registering?
Republicans shouldn't have it, or Democrats shouldn't have it. It's just, I don't even want her to be an affiliate, because I'm an affiliated. I don't want to get messed with that goop. This is ridiculous. You are the spokesperson for a particular party that was in charge. You've got zero credibility coming out now and saying, no, I'm independent and I'm going to tell you what was wrong. No, zero.
So I've worked in political communications for decades, okay? Yeah. And when you reach a certain level, like Karine Jean-Pierre did, where she is the spokesperson, right? To your point, she is the press secretary for the President of the United States. All right, they know that they're pushing a bunch of crap. Okay?
Yes.
But
yes, I do.
What the challenge becomes, and the interest is, can I do this in a way that either deflects from my boss the challenges that you're facing, or gets them to focus in on something? It almost becomes like a game.
Oh yeah,
right.
It is.
So
it is.
These are not people that are going, I'm going to come up and tell you the truth.
No.
I want you to understand what's happening, or because you never see them apologize for anything.
No.
That point being, they're never going to admit they're wrong.
Yeah.
So then the game becomes, can I deflect? Can I offset? And it almost becomes like a strategy level exercise that they enjoy. Meanwhile, the whole time lying. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's the check is cashed because you're the mouthpiece for the organization. They're not dependent upon your views about the issue. You are there to represent what the organization, party, or whoever is employing you. And you are supposed to be their mouthpiece, not yours. And two of the biggest things are that in that situation, you answered the question that, not the question that's asked, but the question that you want to answer. So that's the first technique you do. And then you become really good at the knockdown. How do you knock down those questions? Those are the first two things. And you can see it happen. But again, that's the idea of when the spokesperson comes out and tells you something, you look at that and go, okay, that's the spokesperson. It's just like when McDonald's comes out and says, this new milkshake's fantastic. Yeah, I know, because you want to sell the milkshakes. The person doing the spokesperson is trying to sell the party as well.
Behind it. That's exactly right.
They're trying to sell you on it, and so that's it.
So Karine Jean-Pierre announces she's leaving the Democrat Party and is promising to give us a look into a, quote, broken White House.
You know what she's doing?
She was working in.
That she was working in, and that she was the person saying the stuff that she says. That's the part. It's like, hey, all that stuff I was telling you, guess what wasn't true? You're like, wait a minute here. This is just, this is so maddening. This is so annoying.
8422 texted in, and this is insightful. I truly thought she would just ride off into the sunset and we never hear from her again.
I was hoping so as well, but you know what this tells me? The fact that she's coming out the book and that she's going to be an independent. You know what this tells me? I'll tell you this. Money. Yes, money, but also no money. You know what this tells me? That MSNBC didn't have a spot in the lineup.
MSNBC's barely around anyways. And we shouldn't be complaining. Media is struggling.
Oh, I know. Media is struggling. But the idea is that, I believe that if she was planted into the MSNBC lineup at this point, she would be a happy Democrat and she would continue to push the party and everything else. But that doesn't seem to be an option. So she needs to find a way to make money elsewhere. And being the former Biden White House spokesperson has very little value at this time outside of MSNBC and Mother Jones. It has no value. So she can't trade on that. So she needs to reinvent in order to come out and do something else. Otherwise, you can't put her on CNN and have any credibility. And God, Fox isn't going to touch her with a 10-foot pole. Neither is OAN. Nobody's going to do this.
6135. She lied over and over to the American citizens. She knew she was doing it. She is trash. She is one of those DEI jobs.
I say she just wasn't good at her job. But the other part is that you got no credibility. When you're like, I'm the former spokesperson, and now let me tell you about all this stuff. No credibility. Here's the deal. Okay, right now, I'm across the country. In fact, yeah, right now, I'm on a number of radio stations across the country doing classic country. I don't know classic country at all. Don't know the music. I'm doing a ton of research. These shifts are taking me a lot longer than they normally do because I'm not as familiar with the songs and the artists. I know the artists some, but I've got to really do some background research and really understand the demographic and really understand the song. If I came out next week and talked to you about how classic country music sucks and this is horrible, that's awful, especially if I did it on the radio station. That's awful. No. That's not it at all. They're paying me to move the classic country music, and so I'm embracing it. I am bathing in it at this point to figure out the right way to present it and enjoy it. I'm not going to throw rocks afterwards. It's not my thing. Am I going to go back and listen to classic country in the next couple of weeks after I get done with this gig? No, probably not. But I'm also not going to be writing a book about why country music radio and classic country sucks. No. And you wouldn't take me seriously if I did. It's stupid.
Janet, the next move for her will be doing a failed podcast.
Yes. Either that or there's...
And look, we're throwing a lot of rocks in an industry that is literally changing. No matter what aspect of media you're in right now, reality television, for instance, collapsed by 60%.
That's crazy.
Last year, that thing's dying. Real TV's dying. Everything's changing. I saw that there's a what's become really popular now on TikTok are 60-second soap operas.
Yeah.
So actual characters that you follow, but the episode is only 60 seconds long. So media is going to be hard for her, but in part because she's not that interesting. She's not that compelling. I agree with some critique, including coming from Laura Bower, that she was a DEI hire. So now you're going to try to make it out there. It's going to even be tougher. But we'll talk about more of this coming up. Now it's time for your news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It's 51 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 70 today. And the 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, DJT's big, beautiful bill, continues to be criticized by some and pushed by others. The sausage-making process is ugly. NBC News correspondent Rory O'Neill on with Jeff and Billy talking the president.
He had a meeting with the Republican leaders yesterday. Obviously, he wants this thing passed. He has admitted it's not perfect, but says, look, this is the legislative process. Everyone's got to compromise somewhere. But he wants those tax cuts that he got passed during his first term. He wants those made permanent, and that's a big part of this legislation.
Former Congressman Greg Lopez, also running for governor, chimed in with the fellas.
When I was there, the whole discussion I had with the Speaker, Mike Johnson, and the leadership was, we got to pass these 12 appropriation bills. This is where we cut. This is where we bring down some of the expenditures. I think I've spoken to you guys about the zombie bills that, are programs that are being funded that have expired, and yet Congress keeps funding them. And so until Congress gets the courage to recognize that they're there to serve the country and not worry about whether they're going to get reelected or not get reelected, and actually do the hard job of making those tough decisions, we're going to continue to see this continued debt just grow and grow and grow.
In Boulder on Wednesday,
we want to say enough. Hate, anti-Semitism, terrorism, and violence have no place in Colorado and no place in the United States of America.
Governor Polis urging Coloradans to reject violence and anti-Semitism at the Boulder County Courthouse. That's where the Egyptian terrorist Mohammed Solomon tried to murder at least 15 people. Polis said terrorism does not win, and DJT doing whatever he can to protect Americans from this evil.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world.
DJT signed a proclamation fully restricting and limiting the entry of nationals from 12 countries. Meanwhile, a federal judge, another lefty who thinks he's president or king, blocking the deportation of Solomon's family. On Wednesday, the U.S. District Judge issued a ruling that bars the Trump administration from removing the wife and 5 children of Solomon. The family had their visas revoked and was detained by ICE shortly after Sunday's attack. Here's another lefty politician who loves her open borders. Because, as she says, if we don't have these immigrants, who's going to wipe our arses? She needs these people.
But we see it as an existential issue for the country. If we don't have avenues for people to come here legally to work or to build a home here, I'm going to be really crude right now. We're not going to have anybody around to wipe our asses because we don't have enough people.
Wow. Representative Becca Ballant from Vermont. She's LGBTQRSPNZ XBSY Alidocious. Speaking of, so she's a big lefty from Vermont. And wow, I don't know if she's going to be able to get away with that. So you need all the immigrants you can get to do the dirty work for her. Speaking of LGBTQ, whatever, Karine Jean-Pierre has written a book and leaving the Democratic Independent.
Hurt and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can.
Did everything he can. Okay, continue.
For this country, a person who I believe, as I mentioned before, has done more in one term than most presidents had done in 2 terms, historical things.
Most president had done. Continue.
Things, and I was shocked by what I was seeing.
And Karine, just to clarify, these are other Democrats and Democratic leadership coming out against Biden.
Yep, I had never seen anything like that. That was, if you're asking me, the thing that I saw in those 3 weeks, that was shocking. Shocking. And instead of coming together to really be unified and trying to figure out how do we save our democracy, how do we fight back, that's what I was seeing.
The Rockies have won 3 straight. They beat Miami on Wednesday. The Oilers come back to beat the Panthers in Edmonton in overtime. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals last night. Unbelievable game. That was a good one. NBA Finals, Game 1 tonight in Oklahoma City, Pacers and the Thunder. 51 in Lone Tree, 50 in Boulder, 53 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on this Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Through Friday, it's going to be cool and unsettled here along the Front Range with more rain chances. Low to mid-70s today, partly to mostly cloudy with afternoon showers and thunderstorms lingering into tonight. Lows upper 40s to near 50. Highs only 60s and lower 70s, mostly cloudy with more showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday through Friday. Warmer for the weekend with lower thunderstorm chances. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We have so many great text messages on here. 0459. What makes Jean-Pierre's BS so galling is the piety she shoveled with the BS.
Yes, that's a good insight.
So, she's shoveling the BS as Biden's press secretary. And then, this is the total grift. I think this is why you got so mad. So she's shoveling the BS. She's got the piety and the shaming that she does while she's doing it, then turns around and writes a book about how the White House shoveled BS.
Yeah. And that is a
to
wonderful.
Make some more money.
That is a wonderful insight. That is 110%. It is. That's really it. It's the emotion and the idea of how dare you? And that's not a real question. You don't know what you're doing. You people. That emotion that she brought to that podium, that was so off-putting. That's a really, really good insight, Texter. I sure appreciate that, because that's the core of it, is how she conducted herself. I don't believe that she was any good at her job, but she's one of a long list of people that I don't think have been any good at that job there. But then once you say that I was cashing the check to tell you the stuff that the party and the president wanted me to, and now I'm going to tell you the real stuff. This is as bad as Jake Tapper saying, I'm a news person and I should have told you about this thing with Biden about a year ago, but now tell me, now buy the book about the stuff that I should have told you for free a year ago so that I can line my pockets. Yes, this information would have been helpful a year ago, but you wouldn't have paid me for it then. Ha-ha! Ching ching, buy my book. No, Jake, go sit in the corner. Shut up. You're done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, his book sales.
Of course.
I mean, he's I think it was New York Times bestseller, but you guys know how the game's played, right?
Yeah.
Lots of groups will buy up the books. So, for instance, sometimes if we wanted to host a speaker, rather than doing a speaker fee, if they had a new book out, I could write a speaker fee check for $5,000 or buy $5,000 worth of books. They would sign them. What they wanted was they would get a portion of the sales of that book, but they wanted the ranking of the book.
Yeah, they wanted to be able to say I'm a bestseller.
So they were willing to negotiate that deal.
Because best-selling author makes the check for further speaking engagements bigger. So number go bigger.
100%.
That's exactly what the game is. And this is ridiculous. She's trying to does anybody out there at 303-696-1971 believe in this reinvention? Any of you believe that at her core she really is independent right now? Do you buy into it? I know there are a ton of people out there that don't buy into the fact that I'm independent, and I think that at times I throw enough rocks to prove that I am, that I'm unaffiliated. There are times on things I lean conservative, times I lean Democrat on things, but I hate both parties deep in my soul. But I don't believe
you hate the
Jean-Pierre.
scam. You hate the scam,
yes,
and it doesn't matter which side it is.
Yes, I hate the scam. Oh, you're exactly right. God, I hate that. And that's what pisses me off about this too. Is I feel this is a scam. I feel this is a complete scam. That she is only trying to reinvent herself so that she gets the cheap pop when she comes back outside of the curtain, inside the pro wrestling ring. Again, Peter Boyles and I talk about life and even professional radio being a hell of a lot like professional wrestling. And this is an example. She's trying to reinvent her character, but she didn't disappear for a while. A lot of times, what will happen is you get injured, or you go run another territory, you've got some time off, or they don't have a storyline for you. You come back and it gives you a chance to reinvent your character. So I was the baby face for the Democrat Party for so much time, and now I'm coming back and I'm going to be the heel. But it doesn't work when you've only been gone for a few months. It doesn't work this way. She's got to be gone for a while and then come back and make this all of a sudden this change. It just doesn't make any sense. This is a shotgun. This is basically a shotgun storyline in pro wrestling. This is stupid.
I want to talk to you about previous press secretaries, because there's been some good ones here. I'm looking at a list.
Yeah.
Right. George Stephanopoulos went on to have quite a storied career after he served as Bill Clinton's press secretary in 1993.
And I felt Stephanopoulos was very effective at his job. I think that I would put him, on as far as a curve, I would give him scores not for necessarily likability or agreeing with him, but for the ability of doing his job well. I think he gets high scores from me.
Ari Fleischer. Remember Bush, 2001 to 2003. Scott McClellan. I kind of remember Scott a little bit, not too much.
Yeah.
And then my favorite of all time, because I actually got to work with this guy. I was the media coordinator for the Senate Republican Conference, so it was my job to put 55 Republican senators on radio and television every day.
Oh, that's a fun job.
Yeah, I could tell you stories. But my favorite, because I was there during that time, got to be in meetings with him, got to know him, Tony Snow.
Oh, Snow was good.
Tony was very good.
Snow
Ended
was
up
good.
dying of cancer. I think maybe it was a brain cancer, but great guy.
Yeah. And I even think that Ari Fleischer did a decent job as well, as far as the skill set, as far as what he had to do. But yeah, Snow was really good.
And then
Snow's
Dana
real good.
Perino, your friend.
Yeah, I know. I've known Dana actually since high school, and we went to college together. And I have some positives with Dana and some negatives. There's some things I think she really did well, but there are some other things I don't think she did well. But I do think that she's one of the better ones in our recent history. Yeah.
Robert Gibbs, I kind of remember him. He was Obama's. Jay Carney, didn't really like. Josh Ernst, no one really remembers. And then you got Sean Spicer.
He's one of the worst. Just awful. The thing for me is that he wasn't very good at his job, and he wasn't very genuine at his job. So he failed on 2 points. That he felt that he was going to be able to pummel the media into believing what he was saying was happening, and he was really bad at massaging the truth. He's basically, he was that 5-year-old kid that tells you that he stole the cookies. I mean, he just was really bad at his job. I've got very little respect for him. I think he was atrocious. He's one of the people I would hold up as how not to do the job. Yeah.
Was Anthony Scaramucci an actual press secretary?
I don't know. And that's the thing is, I always remember.
He was the White House communications director.
Yeah, he was communications director.
For 10 days.
Yeah, for 10 days, is there anybody else in modern history that's been able to pull a 10-day gig into something else as far as a long-term job? I still see him interviewed on shows. Like, why? Well, why do you care? Why would we interview? He had a job for 10 days. If I'm a doctor for 10 days, nobody asking me for medical advice for the rest of my life. That's just dumb. Just stupid.
Scaramucci. Sarah Sanders, I thought was great. Loved her. She's gone on now to become the governor of Arkansas.
I thought she was awful.
Really?
Personally.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. I thought she was awesome.
awful. I thought she was awful because I thought, for me, she was much like Jean-Pierre. I thought her tone was bad. I thought how she conducted herself. I didn't think that how she communicated was necessarily effective, and I thought at times she was a touch petty. I thought I see a lot of what I disliked about Karine Jean-Pierre in Sarah.
Stephanie Grissom, I don't really remember her much.
Yeah, she was there for a little bit. Yeah,
maybe about a year. It looks like.
Again, I give
less than a year.
Yeah, Stephanie, I'm not impressed, but not horrible. Not passing grade just because of default. Yeah,
I had at the 2022 Western Conservative Summit Sarah Sanders and Kayleigh McEnany. I had both of Trump's press secretaries there. Kayleigh, I thought, did great too.
The thing that I appreciate about Kayleigh is she seemed to get the strategy more on point than many people, but she still had this ability to stand there and tell you, no, I am going to pee on your head and tell you it's raining, but she wasn't always very good at disguising that. She didn't massage the message the way that she probably could have. She openly at times was like, no, I'm telling you this rain. Yes, we both agree this is urine. But it's rain. Stop asking me about the rain. It's warm, though, isn't it? That's basically what it was. Somewhat effective, but I don't get a lot of respect for her just because of some of the ways I think she could have been more persuasive. I don't think she massaged the message.
And then you had Biden's disasters, two of them. Jen Psaki, Circle Back Psaki.
Yeah.
And then Karine Jean-Pierre.
See, I disliked Karine Jean-Pierre. Psaki, for me, is much like there's a McEnany and Dana Perino element in there where I think that she was effective for what she was doing. I think she had, and I have them too, some verbal tics and some crutches that we all use. But I think she was very effective where I throw rocks at McEnany not being able to massage the message. I thought that Psaki was really good at massaging the message, and she was really good at answering the question she wanted to answer, not the question that was asked. I thought she was really good at that one. Did I think that she was fantastic? No. But in recent memory, out of that entire group, I probably, if I had to have a spokesperson for my company, I might actually pick her. I'm not saying I would, but she would be one of the top in recent memory. Not going back to, the guys you worked with, not going back to Snow or those guys. They're on a different level. They're really good. But in recent memory, because I feel that she is effective at communicating the message that I need her to communicate without necessarily being as confrontational. I think she's really good at massaging the message, but I do have some problems with her as well. But I thought she was effective at that. Jean-Pierre's a mess. I don't know why she kept her job for so long. That didn't make any sense to me.
DEI, Bill, come on. It's so easy.
Well, the thing is... And
she's black and a lesbian.
Well,
she is checking a lot of boxes.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is, and this is why I understand the argument about DEI, and this is why I do not agree with it, is because I believe there is a perception that DEI means hire someone that is incompetent. And I disagree on that premise, and that's not really what DEI meant. But now it has become a term to mean that. So when we say they're a DEI hire, it means that that person is incompetent. And I'll tell you, this is where I use it. I will, every once in a while, I will choose to use it, but this is where I check myself on that. It would be super easy for me to say that Pete Hegseth is a DEI hire, because it would be the same thing. He clicks boxes, but he's unqualified for the job. If I was viewing DEI as the same terminology, I would be saying that Pete Hegseth is a DEI hire. I would say someone like Judge Jeanine Pirro is a DEI hire. But I check myself because I don't feel that's an appropriate descriptor on either side. So that's something that I do personally, where I may believe these people are unqualified, but I don't use it. But I understand why the critique is there, even though I disagree.
Well, what you saw out of the Joe Biden administration, go back to, Ketanji Brown Jackson, is they start with what they would like the person to look like or have a certain sexuality in order to rectify historic wrongs, and then they just force somebody into that position and feel better about them. That's how I see DEI.
Yeah, I understand. I don't agree with that because I think Ketanji Brown Jackson is eminently qualified. So I don't. If we had someone,
Bill,
I think she's qualified.
Listen to the audio of some of these Supreme Court cases.
Yeah.
Oh, she's a total dope.
I disagree. I don't. But again, I would love to hear the examples that you have, and maybe that would get me there, because we may be listening to different portions, and I don't know what you're hearing or how you're interpreting or why. So I'm not going to say that you're necessarily wrong, but we do have a different opinion on that one as well, and that's okay.
Well, what's really cool, Bill, is coming up here in just a few minutes. John Decker, White House correspondent, who I think has sat through all of these, many of these names, is going to join us as President Trump is welcoming a new chancellor of Germany to the White House. John Decker is going to be part of the media pool covering the visit, and he's going to talk about the purpose of the meeting as well as what happens when a new foreign head of state visits the White House. So we'll talk to him. Let's talk alarm detection systems. Guys, we know all of the problems with crime in the state. But we have a solution in light of all the crime, all of the problems, trying to open a business, that type of thing. Alarm detection systems, the highest level of service and expertise, because reliability is not optional when business security is on the line. It's essential. You know the criminals are out there. You know they're going to try to steal from you. You know it's going to wreck your business, so you can't deal with some rink-a-dink alarm system. You got to have the best alarm detection systems. Think about all the time you could be saving with just having one source for cameras, key card access, fire and intrusion systems. ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same day or next day service upon request, because you know that downtime's not an option, dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected, and you'll be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. They're trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools, and their security experts will review your system totally for free. So what do you have to lose? Right? They're going to review it for free. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Might as well talk and see what your options are. So go to adsalarm.com to schedule your appointment today. adsalarm.com. Alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses. adsalarm.com. All right, joining us now is John Decker. He's White House correspondent. President Trump is going to be welcoming the new chancellor of Germany to the White House on Thursday, No, today, Thursday. Veteran White House correspondent John Decker is going to be part of the media pool covering the visit. He's going to talk about the purpose of the meeting as well as what happens when a new foreign head of state visits the White House. Good morning, John. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me. That's right. In just a few hours, the new German chancellor arrives at the White House. I walked into the White House today, walked by Blair House, and a large German flag hanging outside. So the president clearly rolling out the red carpet for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. They'll talk about the war in Ukraine. They'll talk about NATO, the importance of that defense alliance, and certainly talk about trade. Every foreign leader that comes to the White House wants to talk about trade, given the president's trade tariffs policy, and I'm certain that that will be on the agenda as well.
That's John Decker, White House correspondent. Now, John, just before you joined us, we were talking about Karine Jean-Pierre's book and talking about press secretaries. Yeah. I was the media coordinator for the Senate Republican Conference at one point in my life and got to know Tony Snow. Really enjoyed him. Your experience as a White House correspondent, you've gotten to interact with all of these press secretaries. From your perspective,
17 of them.
17. What makes for a good press secretary in your mind?
Well, someone that understands the press corps. You know, you mentioned Tony Snow, and whenever I'm asked of those 17, who was your favorite, and it was Tony. Tony was a former journalist when he took on that role, so he understood the needs of the journalists. He was very honest, very upfront, but he also understood his role in terms of speaking on behalf of the president. It's a different world now. You know, the world is one in which, whether it's Jen Psaki or whether it's Caroline Leavitt, you know, often politics seeps into the briefings, you know, and not a nice word is said about the other party. That's different. You know, when Tony was press secretary for George W. Bush, he was someone who tried to be even-handed in his approach to the way he dealt with his job and the reporters who cover the White House.
That's John Decker, White House correspondent, 17 press secretaries. Now, you said your favorite was Tony. You don't have to say who your least favorite was, but what makes for a challenging working relationship with a press secretary?
Well, a challenging working relationship is one in which it's pretty clear, abundantly clear, that the press secretary does not have a working relationship with the president in which they can essentially walk in at any time in the Oval Office and have a conversation with the president. And there have been instances of that where it's pretty clear that, you know, the president kept an arm's length distance from the person who speaks on their behalf. That makes for a press secretary that is challenging to work with, and we know that when they come to the podium, they may not necessarily always have all the information they need to deliver to the press corps and to the country at large.
That's such great insight. John Decker, White House correspondent. Final question. You've got a busy day today. You're going to be part of the media pool covering the visit of the German chancellor. So give people a little insight on what your day is going to look like.
Well, in a few hours, the German chancellor will arrive here at the White House, and I'll be part of the press corps that goes into the Oval Office. We know about that already, and so hopefully I'll get an opportunity to ask some questions of the president while I'm in there with the press corps. Now, the press corps that goes in there is not only the American press corps, the American White House press corps, but also the German press corps. So it can sometimes get awfully crowded inside the Oval Office for those events.
Such cool insight. John Decker, thank you. You have a very busy day. Thank you for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill show.
Thank you. Of course. Thank you.
All right, we'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Wonder who his worst one was. I'm still curious.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. The German Chancellor is visiting the White House today. They are going to be talking Ukraine. They're going to be talking Europe and its response to what's happening there. By the way, Putin on a call yesterday with President Trump saying that he is going to respond to that drone attack that took place from Ukraine into Russia, attacking the bombers and taking out anywhere from 20 to 30% of Vladimir Putin's bomber airplanes. And these things are old, by the way. So we're going to have to see what that looks like. Doesn't seem like they're any closer to any peace deal. But question I got for you, Bill.
Yeah.
Germany is showing up today to talk with the White House. They're going to talk Ukraine. Is Germany, Western Europe, in a position of strength right now to confront Vladimir Putin?
Interesting. I would say no. I don't believe they are, for a variety of reasons, and I'll go answer the phone here in a second, so hang with me. I don't believe they are, in part because of NATO and the lack of individual defense spending, which Trump has been right about. But we were covering their butts, and so I understand the choices they made. So I don't think they're necessarily ready there. The other part is energy. Is Russia, to me, is no longer a country. They're a giant gas station that has its own flag. That's basically all they do. They export fossil fuels. That's it. That they have no real other industry to speak of, especially not on the international stage. And Europe loves getting them their cheap gas from Russia, and Russia needs to sell it. So that's why I don't think they're ready to confront Russia, because I don't think they, one, are necessarily ready militarily, but more importantly, I don't think they can function economically without getting fuel out of Russia.
I think the war between Ukraine and Russia has exposed how weak Western Europe is and the choices it's made for the past few decades with regards to spending on its defense, spending on NATO, and its own immigration choices. I think that Western Europe is about as weak as it could possibly be, and you may see an entrenched war between Ukraine and Russia like World War I, that just this kind of ongoing tit for tat, back and forth, in part because Europe is so weak at this point. Join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Speaking of Dan, let's talk Dan Caplis Law. I love this guy. I've known him for well over a decade. This guy's solid. Pro-life, pro-family, pro-faith, pro-America. Been on his show, had him on our show, worked with him at the Western Conservative Summit. This guy is the real deal. 40 years in Colorado of delivering justice for people hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado state history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, give him a call. Here's the phone number, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit DanCaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. This hour we started by talking about Karine Jean-Pierre's new book, Broken White House. And she's leaving the Democrat Party. Bill, you got a call there from somebody.
Yeah, got a call from a friend who get these off-air calls every once in a while and saying that I'm getting this completely and totally wrong, that I'm not appreciating that Jean-Pierre is actually taking aim at the Democrats who betrayed Joe Biden and how she was disillusioned as to how it happened that he was pushed aside in favor of Kamala Harris. And I appreciate that perspective.
Hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The black lesbian woman is complaining that the old white man was pushed aside for a black woman.
Yeah, she is. But the thing for me is, that's not for me. What I look at is the idea of she was upset. It seems like, based on the writings, that she's mad at all the Democrats for pushing aside Joe Biden. He was going to get smoked. And after the debate, Jeff, you accurately described this on the air, and I'll never forget it the next morning. You said, did we just watch a presidential campaign collapse live on TV? And we did. You were 110% correct. The presidential campaign for Joe Biden is collapsing. If Jean-Pierre cannot realize that and cannot come to terms with that, I'm sorry. You're more lost than I gave you original credit for. You really don't understand what's going on. And this is a woman that worked in not only the Biden White House, she worked in the Obama White House, and she was the chief of staff for Kamala Harris during the 2020 campaign. So then to come out and say, here's all the stuff wrong with the Democrats that I've been involved with for the previous decade or so, no credibility. She acknowledges that she came out and she was supposed to be the mouthpiece for not only the Biden administration, but the Democrat Party while in the White House. And then now she's saying, we need to see that in the challenges we're facing, that we need to step aside from the party affiliate. Hey, who was the mouthpiece based on specific party affiliation? She climbed the ladder and got her position because of specific party affiliation. She said to us over and over again, the solutions to our country are based on those pushed by one particular party. And now she wants to write a book saying that we need to move beyond this. And someone's calling in saying that I'm wrong in my interpretation, that now she's trying to say, you shouldn't have listened to me at all. I actually am an independent. Shut up. I don't care. This is wrong. And don't buy the book.
Here's the description of her book.
Yeah. A little mad.
I love it.
Not at the caller, but at this. This book is stupid.
In a country obsessed with blind loyalty to a two-party democratic system, Karine Jean-Pierre, former White House press secretary to the Biden-Harris administration, shares why Americans must step beyond party lines to embrace life as independents. You know, I always, by the way, this is a side tangent. I always love when the party that's out of power.
Out of power too, though.
When the party that's out of power says we need to cross party lines.
Yes, it's oddly how bipartisanship is always super important to the party out of power. It's always real important to them all of a sudden. Yes,
they weren't doing this in 2022.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Jean-Pierre didn't come to her decision to be an independent lightly, Bill.
No, she needed a job. So that's what that's
she
the motivation.
Has served two American presidents, Obama and Biden. In 2020, she joined Biden's campaign as a senior advisor, becoming Harris's chief of staff. And then 2 years later, White House press secretary. She takes us through the 3 weeks that led to Biden's abandoning his bid for a second term and the betrayal by the Democrat Party that led to her decision.
Betrayal. Again, you were sitting there telling us that he was the best person for the job, Ms. Jean-Pierre, and my partner on air accurately described Biden's debate performance as the real-time collapsing of a presidential campaign. Do you think, in your independent mind, Ms. Jean-Pierre, in this idea of stepping beyond boundaries, that the best chance for the party of which you were cashing checks from was contained with Joe Biden. That was the best shot. If you think that was your best shot and you think this was awful, you have no idea what you're talking about. He was going to get smoked. In fact, the bet should have been, was the win for Donald Trump against Joe Biden in the past election, if Biden stayed in it, was it going to be larger or lower than Reagan stomping a Mondale? That would have been the Mendoza line. That would have been the betting line. It was not in doubt. That's why he was moved out. And yeah, they made a mistake in how they did it and everything else. Sure, but don't tell me now, I need to have a little bit of independence. You haven't been independent for decades, and you cashed the check not being independent, and you decided to be the spokesperson, the mouthpiece for the party. Don't tell me several months after you lose your gig about you discovering to be independence. I'm sorry. I want to say I've been doing this damn thing for more than 2 decades. I left the Republican Party more than 2 decades ago. Don't come out here with your book after 3 months when your party gets smoked in the last election and then claim to be an independent. No, I don't believe you. This audience shouldn't believe you, and no one should buy your stupid book. It's ridiculous.
In an urgent, timely analysis, Bill, Independent urges all Americans to vote their values and maintain individuality within party lines.
Except if you can cash the check.
Literally has steam coming out of his ears right now.
I do, because she's sitting here aping the...
She presents clear arguments and provocative evidence as an insider about the importance of dismantling the torrent of disinformation.
You were part of it!
And misinformation that has been rampant in recent elections, and provides passionate insight for moving forward in a hard-hitting yet hopeful critique. Jean-Pierre defines what it means to be part of the growing percentage of our fractured electorate that is independent. Why it can be worthwhile to carve a political space more loyal to personal beliefs than a party affiliation, and what questions you need to ask yourself to determine where you fit politically. This thing was written by AI, I think.
Oh, yeah.
As a history maker, veteran public servant, political analyst, and independent thinker, she urges Americans to think outside of the blue and red box as we consider what's next to save our democracy.
Yes, unless one of those parties decides to write you a check. Then say whatever they want. That is the rule of Karine Jean-Pierre. I'm only independent when the checks stop coming. I've been independent for more decades. Well,
speaking of throwing independence out the window, judges are next up on our list as the Boulder terrorists' family gets a stay from their expedited deportation. We'll talk about that next. We want to hear from you, though. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Does the stay mean they're going to stay?
Well, it's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, June 5th, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up with the greatest country in history. We're off and running. Got an entire hour of debate planned, conversation, because boy, oh boy, yesterday this thing got hot. Would love to have you back. Biden-appointed judge now blocking the deportation of Boulder attack suspect's family despite visa violations. All right? So they're already here illegally. We've established that their visas have been violated. The father in the family goes and tries to burn Jews alive in the streets of Boulder. Kristi Noem, Donald Trump, ICE, quickly detaining the family and beginning expedited deportations of them back to Egypt. And a friend of the family files a lawsuit on their behalf, gets a Biden-appointed judge to stay the deportation. And right now we don't know where they are because there are no family housing units for ICE in Colorado. Some folks over at Channel 7 are speculating that they're already in Texas where some of this takes place, although the deportation block that came in yesterday maintains that they have to stay in Colorado. So real questions as to where the family is right now. But here's just one question I have. If you're an anti-Semitic family that tried to burn Jews alive, or at least the father wanted to do that, right? By the way, I saw a video yesterday where he talks about how this is him fulfilling his jihad. Okay? Why would you want to stay in America? You can go to Egypt. They'll throw you a parade. They'll name a street after you in Egypt and probably give you a nice house, all that stuff. So why the fight to stay in America? And is this just another example of a Democrat-appointed judge stepping in the way, putting America last to drive these progressive policies of illegal immigration and supporting illegal immigrants ahead of American citizens? I mean, the entire city of Denver is essentially that policy. We're going to make sure that we pay first for illegal immigrants, and American citizens, you'll be last if we have any money left over. Anyways, is this just another example of that? Or is the Biden-appointed judge acting judiciously? Want to hear from you, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Now it's time for your dose of news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. It's Thursday, 55 and cloudy in Denver. Expecting a high of 70 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, according to CNBC, the Chinese were reporting that DJT held a phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping this morning. Interesting. Maybe more on that today. Commie Hakeem Jeffries, who, by the way, has the Nazi salute down pat, says this morning that he's going after ICE agents as they try to do their job for the American people.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified.
It's not the 1930s like it was 6 months ago here in this country. Hakeem Jeffries, big day in D.C.
A few hours, the new German chancellor arrives at the White House. I walked into the White House today, walked by Blair House, and a large German flag hanging outside. So the president clearly rolling out the red carpet for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz.
NBC News White House correspondent John Decker on with Jeff and Billy last hour. The new German big guy in town.
They'll talk about the war in Ukraine. They'll talk about NATO, the importance of that defense alliance, and certainly talk about trade. Every foreign leader that comes to the White House wants to talk about trade, given the president's trade tariffs policy, and I'm certain that that will be on the agenda as well.
Citizens from a dozen countries being banned from traveling to the U.S., citing security risks. DJT signed a proclamation on Wednesday to fully restrict and limit the entry of nationals from 12 countries. The list includes Afghanistan, Iran, Haiti, Somalia, and Sudan.
Thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed.
A federal judge is hitting the pause button and saying, I am God, or at least president. Hitting the pause button on the deportation of the family of terrorist Mohammed Solomon. On Wednesday, the U.S. District Judge issued a ruling that bars the 47 administration from removing his wife and 5 children. The Egyptian national's family had their visas revoked and were detained by ICE shortly after his attack on Sunday in Boulder. Governor Polis was at the site of the terrorist attack on Wednesday.
We want to say enough. Hate, anti-Semitism, terrorism, and violence have no place in Colorado and no place in the United States of America.
DJT, yay! Way to go! What are we gonna do about nothing?
You want to talk about the definition of words? All words, no action.
Yep. Boy, isn't that the truth?
Is this guy going to change anything policy-wise?
No.
They'll try to ban like Molotov cocktails, which are already banned. I mean, what is this guy going to do? You could have been coordinating with federal immigration officials.
Mm-hmm.
You made the state of Colorado a sanctuary state. None of that's going to change.
Nope.
So it's literally the definition of just all words, no action.
Absolutely. Just going to talk and get the little golf claps afterward.
Do you think he'll actually tell his own Democrat Party to knock it off? I mean, right after, within 30 minutes of the attack that took place in Boulder, Tlaib was here, I think, or one of those anti-Semitic lawmakers was here in Colorado for a fundraiser.
Rashida Tlaib was?
Who's the other one? Who's the one from Somalia?
Yeah, now, of course, right when I said Rashida Tlaib,
I think Omar,
now I can't remember.
Ilhan Omar?
Ilhan Omar?
I think Ilhan Omar was in Colorado.
Oh, she was?
Yeah, look at this.
I didn't see
that. This is from Yahoo News.
Wow,
Colorado
on Sunday,
Dems,
huh?
Colorado Dems face backlash for fundraiser with Ilhan Omar after Boulder terror attack.
There you go. Wow.
And look, I understand this was within 30 minutes of the attack. So it's not like these, you go through the attack and you're like, who we should host as a fundraiser? The crazy anti-Semite.
Yeah.
But my point being, you have a party that's embraced anti-Semitism.
Yep.
Right? I ran the Boulder with the stupid Free Palestine's protesters the entire way. They're within progressive movements, and let me remind you, Free Palestine is a call to jihad. It is a call to violence. It is a call to rid the world of Jews. All right? It's no different than from the river to the sea. So when you chant that stuff, you're calling for the death of Jews. So I'm up in Boulder, where Jared Polis is from, where he was a member of Congress, where he lives to this day, and for the entirety of a 10K race, I got to deal with Free Palestine protesters.
Wow.
Now is Jared Polis going to call for that to end? Is he going to call for the Democrats to kick these anti-Semites out of their party?
No.
So everything he said in that audio clip, and you play it again. Can you play it again?
Yep, let's go.
We want to say enough. Hate, anti-Semitism, terrorism, and violence have no place in Colorado and no place in the United States of America.
Well, of course, obviously. What are you going to do?
Just a week prior to this attack, the entire race of the Boulder, the entire 6.2 miles, 10K, you got these stupid protesters doing exactly what he just said he's going to condemn.
Wow.
And he doesn't. He never did it. I mean, now you have Jews that were burned in the streets, and I guarantee you, Boulder still has Free Palestine signs somewhere up.
Oh, there's
Yahoos
no
are still up
question.
there doing that. They're not going to kick Ilhan Omar out of the party.
No.
They'll still bring her back. They'll still do fundraisers.
Yep.
The chief,
That's what they stand
the
for. They hate
leader of the Democrat
narratives.
Party in Colorado, Jared Polis, is not going to do anything to actually combat anti-Semitism.
Absolutely not, because they hate America. That's who they hate. They hate America and they hate us. They hate you and me, and they're going to embrace. And now they're stuck. Now some people on the left are probably a little confused. Like, wait a minute, what? But I mean, until you stand for something, you're going to keep on doing it. And you are correct, Mr. Jeff. DJT's big, beautiful bill continues to be criticized by some, pushed by others. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she has a problem with the portion of the bill. Obviously, I agree that basically allows AI to have their way. NBC News correspondent Rory O'Neill on with Jeff and Billy this morning talking DJT.
He had a meeting with Republican leaders yesterday. Obviously, he wants this thing passed. He has admitted it's not perfect, but says, look, this is the legislative process. Everyone's got to compromise somewhere. But he wants those tax cuts that he got passed during his first term. He wants those made permanent, and that's a big part of this legislation.
Former Congressman Greg Lopez, also running for governor, chimed in with the guys.
And so until Congress gets the courage to recognize that they're there to serve the country and not worry about whether they're going to get reelected or not get reelected, and actually do the hard job of making those tough decisions, we're going to continue to see this continued debt just grow and grow and grow.
The Rockies have won 3 straight. They beat Miami on Wednesday. Edmonton comes back to beat Florida in overtime in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals and NBA Finals tonight in Oklahoma City, Pacers and Thunder. 53 in Littleton, 52 in Lafayette, 55 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Through Friday, it's going to be cool and unsettled here along the Front Range with more rain chances. Low to mid-70s today, partly to mostly cloudy with afternoon showers and thunderstorms lingering into tonight. Lows upper 40s to near 50. Highs only 60s and lower 70s, mostly cloudy with more showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday through Friday. Warmer for the weekend with lower thunderstorm chances. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, the Democrat judges are demonstrating their priorities these days, one being, God forbid, the family of the terrorist burning Jews in the streets of Boulder leaves too quickly. That's what's happening here. Biden-appointed judge blocks the deportation of Boulder attack suspect's family despite visa violations. Article from Fox. In an emergency ruling, a Biden administration appointed federal judge in Colorado halted the deportation of the wife and 5 children of Mohammed Solomon, the Egyptian national, under federal investigation for the Boulder firebombing attack on Sunday. The temporary restraining order, TRO, issued by U.S. District Judge Gordon Gallagher, prevents federal immigration authorities from removing Solomon's wife and the couple's 5 children from the country, at least for now. Defendants are temporarily restrained and enjoined from removing the wife and the 5 minor children from the state of Colorado or the United States. There's questions as to whether or not they've already left the state of Colorado, because Colorado doesn't have any family-oriented ICE detaining facilities. The ruling will remain in effect until a scheduled hearing on June 13th. The order came after the wife's friend sought emergency legal protection for the family. She argued that the family faced imminent deportation by the Trump administration. Oh, God forbid. Without the opportunity to present their case in court. Okay. Well, they've already overstayed their visa. Couldn't you have done this prior to the visa being expired? Well, no, we're going to wait till afterwards. Oh, and then we're going to give our husband time to burn Jews in the streets. Now we want to present our case in court. Gallagher agreed, writing that the family's deportation would cause irreparable harm. Golly. The judge ruled that the friend must submit must submit a supporting legal brief by June 6th, with government attorneys required to file a response by June 11th. I think the government could just be, the family of terrorists should not be living in America. A hearing is set for June 13th at the courthouse in Denver. According to Fox News correspondents, citing sources, the wife and the 5 kids have all overstayed their visas. However, an asylum application has already been submitted on their behalf. Central question is whether deportation should move forward in spite of the family's pending asylum claim. What asylum? Needs to be like literally, you gotta be the dumbest country in the world to provide asylum to the family of terrorists that are killing your own citizens. This is just, as Stephen Miller calls it, suicidal immigration. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has publicly addressed the detention and potential deportation of the wife and the 5 children. In a social media video on Tuesday, Secretary Noem confirmed that ICE had taken the family into custody. They're looking in to see if they had any knowledge of the pending attack that the father engaged in. But look, we say it over and over again. Problems with kids stem from problems with parents. If the dad is an avowed jihadist terrorist burning Jews, why would we even roll the dice with these kids? Get them out of here. Egypt can throw them a parade and name streets after them, And the idea that this country would provide an asylum claim to this family is civilizational suicide. Oh, we had a call. And
darn. They dropped off.
All right, Bill, your thoughts.
I think there are a lot of assumptions that you've made in there that haven't been borne out based on proof. And I'm not saying that they do exist, and nor am I saying they do not exist. And that is assumption, and you rolled it in there, of the idea that this family allowed this to happen. That you're making them complicit, but not just that, accessories to this crime. And I have a problem with that. I don't think that we can hold the family liable or punish them for things that another member of the family did. I don't think we do that in our society, and I disagree with it. I think this is one, as one of the texters pointed out, this is one where the Constitution wins. There should be due process. If we're going to push them out of here because they're a threat, they've done something wrong, then yeah, okay, then prove it. Prove they were part of the plot. Prove that they
Bill, they're on a visitor's visa. They're on a tourist visa.
Well, hang on a second. That again, that doesn't address anything that I have said. That's not.
No, you're saying punishment, all this stuff. No,
yeah.
I'm just saying you're in the country to visit it. Your family members are burning Jews in streets. Why can't the country just go, you know what? Time for you to go home. Why is this like we got to go through court proceedings in order to get them out of here?
Here's the thing. The idea of them violating the visa, that can be grounds for deportation. However, if they started application for asylum, then there is going to be a pause on that. This is where I come down as far as a disagreement. The entire premise of throwing the family out of the country is not based on a violation of the visa. That is the function. That is the reason that we are going to kick them out. But the purpose of kicking them out is because we want to paint them as a terrorist family, just as you did in your earlier description, along with the father. That's what we're doing here. We are trying to stereotype. We want to make sure that this entire group of people are categorized as terrorists, regardless of the fact that of the family members, we only have one person that we know of being involved in any sort of this act or holding these beliefs. We don't know that. So using that as justification as to why they should no longer be part of America, I got an issue with that. We have information that at least one of the kids graduated high school and possibly could receive scholarships to go to medical school. That to
Who cares?
Hang on. To me, it doesn't seem like a jihadist at that point, and could possibly be a doctor. We had a caller yesterday that talked about, could any of these kids possibly be one of 5 diamonds that could come on and do something else later on in life that could significantly help medical research, that could help forward America, that could be technological research.
They can do that in Egypt. Who cares?
But then Egypt owns it, and now Egypt makes the jump. No.
You can roll the dice, Bill. Wait, like this idea that somehow they leave the country and their entire lives fall apart is not true. And 2, we have a responsibility to protect our Jewish citizens. I wouldn't let this family, if I was a Jewish family and this family moved in next to me, I'd be scared as hell. Because you have an example of somebody that was living in that house that just went and burned Jews in the streets. So to me, it's a form of common sense.
Would you be worried if one of Donald Trump's kids moved next to you? Because dad's a convicted sexual assault person.
Oh, he's never been convicted of that.
He was been legally liable. So sorry,
all right. That's a civil issue. He was never convicted of it.
I need to correct that. He did not say convicted. That is wrong. Wrong statement. I was looking at getting to the phone call quickly enough. I should have. He has been held legally liable for sexual assault. That is the correct terminology. I apologize. I was wrong. I used the wrong term by accident. He is held legally liable for sexual assault. He has bragged about his ability to grab women by the genitals and that they will just let him do it because he's rich and powerful. His kids are rich and powerful. You're worried about them next door to you? I'm only asking that.
Not at all.
And here's the reason. Because you were worried that someone in this family acted out and did something, and now the entire family is tainted. But in another case, another family member has acted out and done something, and that family's fine. Seems to be situational, not necessarily based on principle.
Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Again, the headline coming from Fox. Biden appointed judge blocking the deportation of Boulder attack suspect's family despite visa violations. Oh, my gosh, this is another example of Biden and the progressives in this country willing to put America last. Who wants this family here? There's no right they have to be here, right? And now we've got to go through this whole rigmarole of analyzing asylum claims when they were here on a tourist visa and the member of their family is trying to actively kill our citizens. Now we're going to slow things down to do. Where was this concern about process when you had 8 million people pouring across the border? There's no concern about process. You just welcome people out. Now we want to try to get them out of here, and we got to slow it down. We got to do it right. It's crazy to me. All right, let's talk L&L heating and air conditioning. Our air conditioner went out last summer. I had to deal with a brutally hot house in late July, early August. So we started calling up companies to come out and talk with us. We talked with a number of different HVAC companies, and the folks we chose, and they did a great job. L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, they absolutely nailed it. One-day installation, no stress, personal service from start to finish, and they even followed up to make sure everything was perfect. Now, our home's totally comfortable no matter what the weather, and with L&L Heating and Air Conditioning, we got peace of mind. So here's the deal. Free programmable thermostat or carbon monoxide detector with a new furnace or air conditioner installation. Our thermostat is programmable by my phone. It's awesome. I love it. No emergency charges, a $0 trip fee, price match value guarantee on equipment, free estimates, licensed and insured, and a 5-year labor warranty. Everything works great. Our family couldn't be happier. So if you're looking for fast, honest, and reliable service, I highly recommend L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. Here's their phone number, 720-851-1691, 720-851-1691. Online at bestdenverhvac.com, bestdenverhvac.com. I'm sure glad we called them. That number again, 720-851-1691. Bill, let's go to the phone line. I think we got some time here. Nick, Denver. Good morning, Nick. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. I have a question here. These people have already broken the law because they've overstayed their visa. Now, the example that was given, what would you think about the Trump family moving next door? They haven't broken any laws in that example. These people have.
The Trump family, though, in part has broken laws. The family was held liable for violations of charity. They were self-dealing on charities, and the family's been prevented from running a charity for a number of years, over a decade, because they were taking money that was donated to people that were trying to fund cancer research and used it to buy paintings and stuff for themselves. So, yeah, that they have. But what I'm looking at is, are we going to hold the kids guilty for the sins of the father? We discussed this yesterday. Do you think we should do that, Nick?
They've already broken the law by overstaying their visa.
And once they claim asylum, they are granted a hearing. That seems fair.
Why should they even have the right to claim asylum when they're here illegally? How can somebody that's illegal in a country claim asylum?
Well, Nick,
two things can be true at the same time.
I'll let Bill answer. But I
think
the frustration coming from conservatives, I hear in Nick's voice and from myself, is now progressives care about process. I mean, they care a hell about process right now. I mean, every I has to be dotted, every T has to be crossed. Meanwhile, just 2 years ago, millions of people were pouring across the border. We didn't even know who was coming in. And now all the processes have to be followed. That's where I get frustrated. But go ahead, Nick.
For 2 years ago, I was on here saying the process sucks, that the process is broken. Part of the problem we're having with illegal immigration is because the process is broken. People that have been listening long enough have heard me over and over again say that the way that our current immigration system works incentivizes illegal immigration. I, for one, have been talking about the problem in the process. However, Nick, yes, they can have broken the law based on overstaying their visa. It's one of the largest cohorts of individuals that are in the country illegally. We all have this image of people sneaking across the border at night or swimming across the Rio Grande under the cover of darkness. A large portion of the people that are here illegally, that are classified as illegal aliens, are ones that have stayed over their visas. That is true. If that individual, whoever they are, then claims asylum, they are granted a hearing. And I have been yelling about, again, the process. The process to get them through that asylum hearing is broken and takes way too long. It shouldn't take years, but they are allowed a hearing and they should be allowed to go through the process. We don't just pick you up and decide to throw you out. That's it. Once they claim asylum, they deserve to have that hearing, and we should be able to find out if it's not true or not. But the process needs to play out. Why should the process not play out in this situation in your mind, Nick?
So in your universe, these people broke the law, and yet they're using the law to stay here.
No, they're using our asylum claims to see if they can get entry into the country. And
well, those are laws.
Yeah.
Or at least
again,
procedures.
Yes.
So they broke the law, but now they're using the law to stay here. That's your reasoning.
No, because here's the thing. I don't understand where you're going with this. Yeah, but if they break the law to get in here and then they claim asylum, they should get an asylum hearing. Why shouldn't they?
I'll tell you what I think Trump should do.
Why not?
He should say, screw you. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to the Supreme Court. Because this is where this is headed. There's no other place where this can be as at the current time with the current circumstances. The Supreme Court's going to have to decide. So, in my opinion, the federales should just get them out of here and let's take it to the Supreme Court.
But once they're out of here, what happens then? We can't go back and get them. We already have the Trump administration saying that once we deport them, we can't go get them again. So you can't deport them and go to the Supremes.
Why do we want these people? Like, I just don't.
No, but
there's so many good people in this world that would make great American citizens, and we're like going to the mat on a wife and kids that, at best, didn't know what their jihadist father and husband were doing.
They knew
and
exactly
at worst,
what was going on.
We're
How do you know
actually
that, Nick?
complicit in it. So, I mean, guys, go get any other family. I'm not going to go to the mat to defend this family. If Egypt wants them, let Egypt have them. But this is not the type of people, and I think it's civilizational suicide to go to the mat to try to keep this family here.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Nick, you said you think the family's complicit. How do you know that? How are you drawing that conclusion?
Well, you'd have to be an idiot not to again jump to the conclusion that they did not know what Daddy was doing.
No, you have to prove. No, hang on, Nick, wait. That's not how it works.
But they're here
Nick,
illegally.
Wait, Nick,
why do they have to prove anything?
Hang on, wait. That's different. You're jumping around. Illegally, again, I've acknowledged they're here
You're
illegally.
You're jumping around.
No, Nick, I'm not. I'm
you
trying to focus
are stretching this to the max.
No.
To try to try to defend what you're saying.
No, Nick, not at all. Here's the idea: is you assumed they knew what was going on, and they have to prove that they didn't. You have to prove they knew what was going on. If you're making the affirmative claim that something happened, Nick, you have to prove it. I don't have to take you into court and say, prove you didn't kill this guy. I have to prove you did. So you have to prove they were complicit. How do you do that?
But these people are here illegally to begin with.
That's not an answer to my question, Nick. Are you going to answer the question? How do you prove they were complicit? How have you come to that conclusion?
I haven't seen any evidence that they were complicit.
Right,
There's an investigation going on about that.
Process.
But again, this family, I don't know why we're straining the gnat to keep this family in this country. Nick, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Nick's line is open, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Biden-appointed judge blocks deportation of Boulder attack suspect's family, despite visa violations. It's like every day. Trump could go for a walk, and the judges would try to put in a restraining order to stop him from doing that. They're out of control, in my perspective. They're completely politically motivated. No matter what Trump tries to do, they seek to step in and stop it. And in this case, it continues to demonstrate they're willing to put America last. There's no reason to keep this family here, even if they had nothing to do with the terrorist attack in Boulder. There's plenty of good families out there. Not everybody can live in America. They're here visiting. They overstay their visa. They've already demonstrated they don't follow our rules and laws. So get them out of here. Get somebody else in that's willing to do it, and they want to slow this whole thing up. Let's go to Dean in Westminster. Good morning, Dean. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Hey, thanks, guys. And I love this show so much. I was skeptical in the beginning, but I've just grown to love you guys to death.
Oh, thank you.
Billy.
Yes, about me now.
Respectfully.
Yes. Yes, sir. Absolutely. We'll have fun. Yes.
All right. Let me explain very briefly, because I can't be on the phone too long, how illegal immigration has worked for decades now.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Either you cross the border and you happen to get past immigration authorities and you make it in clear and free, okay? That's one way. The other way is you get caught trying to enter the country, and then what you do is you claim fake asylum. And then what happens is you are given a court date, and you must appear to that court date. If you do not, you automatically receive a 10-year, I don't know what it's called exactly, but if you skip that court date for 10 years, you are not allowed in the United States. So this whole thing has been a scam for decades. And when I hear this, whenever I hear asylum, it just makes my blood boil.
Why? Why does that term make your blood boil?
Because because 80% of illegal immigrants cross the border, get captured by immigration authorities, claim fake asylum, and then skip their court dates.
Now, the majority of asylum claims are made at points of entry, not by people that cross the border and then are caught. That's just the numbers.
When they get caught at the border, they claim asylum.
Yes, I do think he's right about that 80% number. I think it's about 80% of asylum claims are rejected.
Well, again, but the issue though is that Dean is focusing on individuals that are
they have broken the law.
Dean, hang on a sec. I'm trying to be accurate.
Skipped their court date. They are automatically. They are not allowed to be here for 10 years. It's automatic.
Hang on a sec. You're referring to a small percentage of the illegal population.
Oh, no. I claim that 80% is fake asylum claims.
Hang on, Dean. You didn't let me get to the end of my sentence. You're focusing on a small portion of the illegal population that crosses illegally. 1, is caught. 2, 3, claims asylum. Okay?
It goes the same for the people who go through entry. They go through entry and they claim their fake asylum.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean, for finally catching up. I appreciate that because that's where I went.
Okay,
just
I'm sorry about that.
That's where I went.
So this whole scam of these fake asylum things needs to be ended.
Dean, stop. Hang on a sec. You and I are probably closer than you want to admit at this point in time, okay? Give me a little bit of space here, and let me walk you through this, okay? The majority of asylum claims are made based at points of entry. That's where the majority of the asylum claims. You are absolutely correct.
Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah. Well, I'll say 50-50.
And
half at the entries and half that get captured by Border Patrol.
Based on the pie chart that I've seen, that wouldn't necessarily hold up on numbers, but I don't want to debate that necessarily with you. I will agree to that just to move the conversation forward because I'm not certain that's going to be germane to the larger portion of the conversation. So what I'm looking at is We've got people that are claiming asylum that come through points of entry. Large portion of that's where the majority of the asylum claims come from. We can disagree on that. Also, you have people coming across the border, and yes, you are right that once you're captured by Border Patrol, a majority of them do claim asylum. And I do believe those individuals, 9 times out of 10, are probably lying about it. I'm not going to say yes, because again, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Now, here's where we are. Hang on. Wait, Dean. I'm going to wait for the proof.
Okay.
I have a problem going large like that with stereotypes. I do it at times, but I try not to. Now, here's the thing, Dean. Here's where you and I will agree. The process and procedure is broken. It's crap. You and I can agree. When someone claims asylum at our border, saying, hey, here's a contact number, here's a cell phone, go into the country and maybe show up 3 to 5 years later to a court date is bogus. And here's the reason why, Dean. The reason why I'm mad about it is not when you're talking about them skipping the court date. What I'm mad about is that gives them a window to establish residency. And what I mean by that is if they don't show up to that, if they don't have a court date for 3 years, they're here for 3 years and they're allowed to put down roots. In some cases, that even means starting a relationship and having kids, which makes it more complicated to deport them later when we decide their asylum case is bogus. That's the problem in the system. I want our asylum cases to be decided inside of 6 to 9 months. That's where I think we go.
6 to 9 months?
Yes. Now, hang on. Only because...
About 6 to 9 weeks.
Oh, I wish we could. I just don't think we have the manpower. This is the thing, Dean. I don't think we have the manpower. And I'm doing 6 to 9 months. Now, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing that may break your brain, and it may break a lot of other people's brains that listen to me, and people that even like what I'm saying may break your brains. Let me break this down,
right.
Okay? Here's the thing, man.
One more thing, please.
Yeah. Here's the thing, man, Dean.
Again, I love the show. This is exactly what talk radio needs.
All right, thank you. Hey, Dean, okay, here's the thing, man.
Guys with differing opinions.
Yep.
Because
now, Dean,
when you have conservatism always wins.
Now, Dean, here's the thing. Now, think about this, okay? I want to have these asylum claims done in 6 to 9 months. I know that's difficult. I know it's a heavy lift. I don't think we can get it cleaner than that, but it will require hiring a lot more people to get it done. Here's the strange thing that may even hurt someone's brains. I'm okay with holding these asylum seekers in camps, as difficult as that is to understand. I'm okay with setting up a camp in Mexico or in Texas and holding on to these people while the process is happening, because I don't want them to come into America and set down roots if their asylum claim is bogus. That's the problem we have in our system.
Interesting. All right, Dean, response.
I love you guys. I have to run, though.
Hey,
Great
Dean.
conversation.
Hey,
Thank
you're
you.
the best,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Go make the money. Go do something responsible today for sure.
Right.
Certainly. Don't talk to us all day.
That was a lot of fun.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Dean.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Again, a lot of what Dean said, I agree with. We're looking at it differently, but we can come to agreement. And as Dean outlined, this is part of the reason why I love working with Jeff. And we talk about how our process and our political procedure is broken is because we don't talk to each other, we don't listen to each other, and we don't try to come to an agreement together. We no longer do that. But that's what the show's about. Thanks, Dean. Appreciate it.
Dean, all right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Be a Dean.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Biden-appointed judge blocks the deportation of Boulder attack suspect's family despite visa violations. Phone lines are hot on this one. Let's go to Joe, Denver. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning, guys. I certainly understand and feel the same frustration that a lot of the previous callers have felt. I have to temper it, though, by sort of compartmentalizing things when we talk about our legal process, rights, and things like that. And you really have to be careful because things can get flipped. I think you guys use the example all the time. If you can't turn something 180 degrees around and still hold the same position, then that's not a good decision that you're making. That's not a good analysis.
Dude, that's like one of my rules in life, man. You're right.
Yeah, and it sucks. Sometimes it's hard to swallow what is obviously very frustrating.
Help me understand what 180 degrees on this would be differently. I mean, we're not talking about U.S. citizens here. We're talking about illegal immigrants. They have already overstayed. They've already overstayed their visa. So even if we...
So the argument...
Go ahead.
The argument has been they broke the law, therefore they don't deserve asylum to claim asylum. And that's certainly an emotional thing to agree with. But if you turn that 180 degrees around, why should somebody who gets a DUI and kills somebody have any other rights if they've broken a particular law?
Or why do we maybe what we do, Joe, is we have their family also serve the prison sentence.
Yeah.
If we're going to hold the family responsible for the terrorist attack.
The facts here don't bear this out. No one's asking this family to serve a prison sentence. Nobody's saying, well, because your dad did that, now the wife's going to go to jail, even though she had no knowledge, or at least right now, no knowledge that he was going to commit this crime.
Yeah.
What we're saying is you have a family that came here on a travel visa. That's like going to New York to look at the Statue of Liberty. That's like going on vacation to America. Okay, they're Egyptian citizens. They came here on a travel visa. Then they decided to enroll their kids in school. Then the dad gets a job. Then the dad goes and burns Jews alive. This is not the type of family that should be in America. And to me, it's more of like the example of the Elizabeth School District with their books, where Elizabeth School District could have quietly just gone and thrown those books in the trash. But because they did so in a public way, well, now all of a sudden the ACLU's jumping on them and you don't have the right to do all that stuff. The Trump administration had every right and could today Just take anybody that's here on a travel visa and go, your time's up. No. But because this dad burns Jews alive in the streets, now we got to follow this big, long process to try to keep these people here?
Well, it's once they claim asylum. That's the issue. And that's part of the problem is we don't hold, and again, the number of times, and Joe's referred to the number of times we've talked about the idea of this being a terrorist family, despite the fact that it's the acts of only one person. And many people overstay visas for a variety of reasons. I hate to bring this up, but oh, do I love to bring this up. Elon Musk violated the terms of his student visa when he was here. Technically, should have been deported.
No one's saying that he shouldn't have. I mean, it's this idea that we're going to bend over backwards to keep this family here. I guarantee you that today, dozens, if not thousands of people that have overstayed their visas are being deported. And so what? Who cares? Like, why? But all of a sudden, because now this dad commits a terrorist attack, we're going to bend over backwards to accommodate them? I don't see it. All right, Joe, we're out of time. Go ahead real quick.
Guys,
I'll give you 10 seconds.
I was just going to say, invest money in the process, make it work, and that will incentivize people to follow it, disincentivize people from breaking it.
All right, appreciate the call.
Man, Joe.
Thanks,
great.
Joe. All right, we'll continue this conversation. Plus, you'll never guess the amount of money spent on a train in California. Never went anywhere. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
710 KNUS.
speaking of that, if Republicans can't defund or at least take away the federal funding of PBS at this point, that's like the thing that will finally push me out of the Republican Party, where I'm like, guys, what? It's 2025. Everyone makes media by themselves with their phones, and we're taking taxpayer dollars and funding it to public radio. Unbelievable. All right. Every time I hear that, it gets me riled up. And speaking, so earlier, Bill, welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's 9:01, by the way. It's 710 KNUS. Earlier, Bill, steam coming out of his ears over Corinne Jean-Pierre, because she is, she was the mouthpiece of the Democrat Party, now wants to claim to be an independent. You're going to watch me get frustrated on this. There's literally probably nothing that drives me more up the wall than stupid government projects funded by bizarre special interests. And this one, Bill, I will reach through the computer screen on this one. California got nearly $7 billion from feds for a high-speed rail, but never laid any track.
Yeah, this is...
Billion.
Yeah.
Billion. And the reason I bring this up is I've got a dope of a governor down in his little stupid mansion there going, what would be great? Train to Trinidad.
Yeah. This is a good example of not understanding the marketplace and not understanding what you're doing. And again, inefficiencies inside of the government in California and how they were putting together this rail system. They had billions of dollars of overruns just based on change orders. There were over 1,000 change orders.
Change orders.
Yeah, which means we ordered one thing, we're going to change something else. Yeah. So then that's just a problem. This is not good, and they should have the money yanked. They shouldn't have, and this is ridiculous. This is a great example of complete and total wasteful spending, and there was no impetus to get the job done. In part, much like where we talk about government programs here locally for homelessness and things like that, where if your program worked, you wouldn't have a job. So if the people doing the high-speed rail in California were efficient at their job, they would be out of a paycheck. So the longer the project goes on, the more job security they create. That's an issue. Where if you had a private corporation that needs to start having this rail line turn a profit, and that it's a deficit spend until we start getting butts in seats and money into the till, then there's an incentive to get the thing done. But inside the government, there isn't an incentive to get it done quickly, because if you do, the people in charge of it lose their jobs. So are you going to look at working at your place of employment to make sure you're replaceable? Probably not. Probably not. I doubt the guy in McDonald's who showed up and goes, "Boss, I got an idea. How about kiosks?" He was beaten by the rest of the employees during break time.
I just don't know where it went. How does $7 billion get spent on a project in California? I know where it went. It went into people's pockets. It went into the retirement funds. It went them into slow rolling, into writing a memo about some frog that might be impacted by this pond that now has to run there a train track. It is the definition of progressive lunacy when it's not your money because it comes from taxpayers. Hell, we'll take all the time in the world. $7 billion and not a single track laid. We'll get to this report next. You're not going to want to miss it. Now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Hey, good Thursday morning. 58 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 70 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, Israel has recovered the bodies of 2 Israeli American hostages taken on October 7, 2023. The remains of Judy Weinstein and Gad Haggai were recovered and returned to Israel after a special operation. Yeah, free Palestine.
Just remember those people that kept the bodies of innocent people they killed on October 7th. That's who we want to free.
Yep. Come on, we want diversity.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them.
People from a dozen countries are being banned from traveling to the U.S. 47 trying to keep Americans safe signed a proclamation on Wednesday to fully restrict and limit the entry of nationals from 12 countries. The list includes Afghanistan, Iran, Haiti, Somalia, and Sudan.
Thanks to Biden's open door policies, today, there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed.
A Biden-appointed federal judge doing what the lefties do best, prevent America from being great again. Pausing the deportation of the family of terrorist Mohammed Solomon on Wednesday, the U.S. District Judge issued a ruling that bars the 47 administration from removing Solomon's wife and 5 children. The Egyptian national's family had their visas revoked and were detained by ICE shortly after the Boulder attack. Governor Polis was at the site of the attack on Wednesday, acting like he's going to do something to protect Coloradans.
We're going to make sure that these acts of terror do not win out. We will continue to proudly express our faith, whatever it is, our beliefs.
Lip service. Attacks on ICE agents are up 413%. And Kami Hakeem Jeffries says this morning he's going after ICE agents as they try to do their dangerous job for the American people.
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s.
Even though the photo of his Nazi salute over the weekend looked like the 1930s. Nice job. NBC News White House correspondent John Decker may see some schnitzel at the White House today on the show this morning.
A few hours, the new German chancellor arrives at the White House. I walked into the White House today, walked by Blair House and a large German flag hanging outside. So the president clearly rolling out the red carpet for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. They'll talk about the war in Ukraine. They'll talk about NATO, the importance of that defense alliance, and certainly talk about trade. Every foreign leader that comes to the White House wants to talk about trade, given the president's trade tariffs policy, and I'm certain that that will be on the agenda as well.
DJT says this morning he held a phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping for an hour and a half. They discussed some of the intricacies of the trade deal, and a meeting could be coming. Speaking of China, another reason we can't have open borders and little or no vetting. Can't have that. Fox News Channel last night.
According to the Justice Department, one of them worked at a laboratory connected to the University of Michigan. The FBI arrested 33-year-old Yuqing Zhan for allegedly smuggling in a fungus called Fusarium graminearum, which could be used as an agro-terrorism weapon. The gases from the fungus could cause liver damage, vomiting, and reproductive defects in humans and livestock. DOJ officials say John has direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party.
No surprise there. That is up and down, north and south, east and west in this country. I can't get enough of Scott Jennings talking about Karine Jean-Pierre leaving the Democratic Party, becoming independent, and writing a book.
I'd like to congratulate Democrats for ridding yourselves of this untalented mediocrity. I mean, this is the most self-aggrandizing liar that has ever held this job. The White House press secretary is a sacred position, and she stood up there for years and lied through her teeth to the American people.
My friend,
and
she's not the first.
She is the literal worst White House press secretary in my lifetime. And what she did in the last year and a half of the Biden administration, she fakes the entire cover-up around the president's mental faculties. She was in the center of it.
So you think she's doing this to launder herself?
So congratulations for getting rid of this, but Democrats deserve everything they're getting here for putting her in that job in the first place.
Boy, isn't that the truth? So good. Rockies have won 3 straight and back at Coors tomorrow against the Mets. NHL, the Oilers win in overtime over the Panthers in Game 1. NBA Finals continue, or actually tip off tonight in Oklahoma City. 55 in Castle Rock, 56 in Lakewood, 58 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Through Friday, it's going to be cool and unsettled here along the Front Range with more rain chances. Low to mid-70s today, partly to mostly cloudy with afternoon showers and thunderstorms lingering into tonight. Lows upper 40s to near 50. Highs only 60s and lower 70s, mostly cloudy with more showers and thunderstorms likely Thursday through Friday. Warmer for the weekend with lower thunderstorm chances. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best Roofing, reminding you to protect your home from the harsh Colorado weather and schedule your free, no-obligation roof inspection today at roofingcolorado.com. That's roofingcolorado.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, Bill, it was nay a month ago that you and I were talking about how Jared Polis wants to expand rail service to places like Trinidad and Craig, Colorado. High-speed passenger trains. Well, actually, in these cases, they weren't high speed. If you remember, right? They were
they were regular.
The same speed as a car.
Part of the not even that. That's
like
the
60 miles an hour.
No, my friend. That's not how that works, because this is old track. You can't go 60 on old track, especially in the summer. I know from personal experience.
That's right. I thought, yes.
Yes, you forgot
Grand
about that.
Junction trip.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
remind our listeners about this.
Yeah, you don't get to go 60. Oh, this is awful. Okay, now, years ago, my oldest, who's in his 20s right now, was little and was learning to walk. And I still can't place exactly how old he was, but I know he was learning to walk because of the number of times he held onto my fingers, and my wife and I had to go up and down the aisle of this train on Amtrak. We decided to go visit friends in Grand Junction. They live in Fruita. They're going to pick us up, so we had transportation from there. And we looked at the amount of time. We had driven down there several times. We looked at the drive versus riding the train.
It's a terrible drive.
Yeah,
one through Glenwood
drive.
Springs, and the highways go on top of each other, and one accident shuts that whole thing down.
And it's just a problem.
Yes.
We've had some problems with getting there in traffic before, so we figured, hey, train, it'll be nice, and we can sit and relax, and they'll pick us up at the train station, everything else. And so this is in the middle of the summer, and we didn't know that the rules are when you're running on old rails that once the temperature raises above 80 degrees, I believe it's 80, it's either 80 or 85, no, I think it's 80, that trains have to travel 35 miles per hour or slower if they are carrying passengers. Now, the cargo trains, those can go 60 because that spills over and nobody dies. And, well, at least not the important people, the passengers, the people that paid for it. They're just, the people that work for the train. They die. And that's horrible, but still. So they don't care about them, but the passengers, you can't. So it was a 9.5-hour trip from Denver to Grand Junction because of the railway and the rules. Those rules, those rails haven't changed. In the middle of the summer, you're going 35 miles an hour to Pueblo, to Trinidad, to why in the hell would you do this? Just stay home, spend the entire weekend smacking yourself in the head with a hammer. It would accomplish a lot more. This is dumb. This is not going to be used the way they think it's going to be. Not going to be the mass translate it's going to be. Just dumb.
What do you do when you get to Trinidad?
Yeah.
Who's going to drive you around? The 2 taxi cab drivers in the city? So it's an entire disaster.
Some tuk-tuks. That's what we need to do.
And it just goes, if there was just demand, I would say something different, okay? But California and Colorado, there's no demand for high-speed rails where they want to go. Now,
where they want to go. Yes, exactly.
California does have what's called the Pacific Rail Line, and we use it all the time when we go to San Diego, spend some time at the beach, and then go up to Anaheim to go to Disneyland, take the kids there. We've actually really enjoyed this. It's beautiful, it's efficient, it's probably a little slower, but we got the kids, we got the luggage, we know what we're signing up for, and we know we're going to Disneyland, and then you take the Uber to the actual hotel. It's super easy, okay? So I'm not totally against trains. This isn't just Jeff Screed against trains.
Yeah.
This is against building stupid trains to nowhere. And California is a perfect example of this. So Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy threatened yesterday to pull federal grants for California's high-speed rail authority after it spent $7 billion in taxpayer funds over a decade and a half without laying a single foot of track. In a 310-page report, Duffy detailed the missed deadlines, stretched budget for the long-running project, and gave the Golden State High-Speed Rail Office until July 11th to respond or get around $4 billion in additional grants cut off. At this point, it's like an act of lunacy to continue to throw money into this thing. The report exposes a cold, hard truth that the Rail Authority has no viable plan to complete this project on time or on budget. Originally passed as a ballot initiative in 2008. 2008!
Yeah.
That's when Barack Obama didn't have gray hair. Okay? The 800-mile rail line was supposed to be completed in 2 phases on a $33 billion budget by 2020. Okay? The whole project between San Francisco and Los Angeles, and with branches stretching to Sacramento and San Diego, was supposed to be done by 2020. I'm sorry, what year is it? 2025, and not a single track has been put down. By 2019, California Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom announced there was no path forward after costs ballooned to $77 billion. We're already at $77 billion, and the project was drawn down to now just a 171-mile section between Merced and Bakersfield. Okay, so maybe you don't live in California, spend time. Went to college and grad school in California. Okay, spend some time there. Wife's from California. All right, Merced and Bakersfield, it's like building a track between Greeley and Watkins. Like, why?
Love that.
Why are we building this track? Okay?
How many people are going from Merced to Bakersfield?
Exactly.
How many people? And how many people need to do it quickly? That's the other part, is quickly.
And now it's been abbreviated to an even smaller segment, okay, of just 119 miles.
Okay, this is the thing. Okay, this is what I love, and how you laid that out. And wonderful job, my friend. That is a great job. So what we're looking at is, here we go. Just a little, back of the note card, little math here on a piece of paper. You're outlining that the 800-mile rail project has been scaled down to 119 miles, and costs are now at $77 billion. Okay, so $77 billion for a high-speed rail that goes a little further than here to Pueblo. This is stupid. I mean, it would be hard-pressed for Jeff, myself, and our audience to come together and find a way to misspend and just pith away. I did say PITH, not the other one. Away money, because I tried to correct myself. I was going to say the wrong word. So just want to make sure that's clear. I did not say the naughty word. But we were going to, we'll say tinkle away the money randomly all over the place and just make it evaporate and then make it cost more. $77 billion to basically travel from here to Pueblo on high-speed rail. That's what California's project is at this point. That's ridiculous. This is dumb. Everybody's heard me throw rocks at the Trump administration. Sean Duffy and the Trump administration is right about this one. Gavin Newsom is right that there is no path forward. And the fact that Sean Duffy asked them to outline how they have a plan to accomplish this and complete the project, and they weren't able to return the email in 24 hours is stupid. If you don't have a list and a plan sitting there to say, this is how we're going to proceed, and you can't forward it, you have no plan because you're building it now. You're trying to figure out what we're going to send to the guy. He asked for the plan. You can't send him a plan. Where's the plan?
Ezra Klein with the New York Times, I think, or the New York Times podcast, whatever, raises this in his new book about how Democrats can't build anything anymore. So, for instance, like the Golden Gate Bridge, I think took 3 years to build.
Yeah.
Right? Like we used to build big things. And in his podcast, he dives into why. And it's essentially they've piled on so many regulations, so many environmental studies that have to be done, that to get these things off the ground is Herculean.
And I think there's a critique there when we looked at the number of environmental studies that they had to do based on this high-speed rail system that was supposed to run originally 800 miles. And while you and I both think that we should protect the environment, this is a great example of where this type of protection goes askew, because that's part of the cost overrun, and part of why they couldn't get it done is because, and remember, we talked about it earlier, the longer that this project gets delayed, the longer these people have jobs. So if you're in process of trying to put down this rail and all of a sudden a study comes up and it's going to take an extra year, 18 months, let's just say 3 months to do a study, maybe a year, 18 months, that's extra time that is tacked onto the end. So you've got an extra 3 months, 6 months, 12 months of a paycheck coming in. There's no reason to accomplish this project on time or on budget because they don't have to derive revenue from it. And Ezra Klein's right that the Democrats are really bad at building things anymore. And my critique, I think he's right, that the idea is they're focused too much on the rules and regulations involved, and they miss the idea that these type of large-scale construction projects are jobs programs.
Yes.
FDR understood that to a T. That's what this is. Imagine where the California economy would be if you had hundreds of people on these construction sites building rail systems that ran 800 miles through the state. That is a ton of jobs. That's a ton of sales tax revenue. That is a ton of payroll tax revenue. That is a ton of medical subsidies, things you can pull to use to pay for health care for other people where you're having fallout. That is the problem. Here, you're building the high-speed rails, and the high-speed trains. Those are jobs for people to build the trains. That's where the Democrats have lost their mind. I think Klein's correct that the Democrats have viewed some of these these contracts as regulatory job programs rather than looking at them as average blue-collar job programs. That's why they were effective during the FDR administration, by putting people to work and building things that the community and the country could use. The Democrats have lost their way, and they don't do that. This should be a massive jobs program, and they have failed.
I mean, $77 billion already, and the article points out that $1.6 billion has been spent on funds due to more than 1,000 change orders. Yeah. Not 10, not 100, not 500 change orders. 1,000 change orders on a track they haven't even put down yet.
Yeah.
What in the hell are you even changing right now if you haven't laid a single track, right? Pushing the projected budget up as high as $128 billion to finish this, making it unlikely the authority will meet its revised 2033 completion date.
Jeez.
That's 25 years after the initial ballot was approved.
That is
back in
crazy.
2008. That's an entire generation.
Yeah, an entire generation has been promised this. And again, I spend a lot of time, and we'll bring up another example here in a bit, but I spend a lot of time throwing rocks at Elon Musk because he overpromises and underdelivers. It has been years since he promised fleets of cyber semis on the road. They're not even building them yet. He doesn't have the factories barely up and running. And I criticize him for that. The Hyperloop, his big burrow into the ground and new subway system thing, that's been a massive failure. All those cities that signed up first to do them have canceled contracts. He hasn't delivered. And I think it's fair to criticize him for not delivering things like that in full self-driving. You have people that bought into Tesla early on, and they were told that you plop down this extra money, you get full self-driving. Those early adopters have now been told you'll never get full self-driving because the computer system in your car can't handle it. And we're not going to replace the computer system. So you're stuck. You may have paid us for the full self-driving, but you're not getting it. I all the time. But this is 10 times worse because it's 2008, should have been completed in 2020, and now they're going into in the 2030s in order to do that. That is ridiculous. That puts Elon Musk timeline failures to shame. That is an embarrassment. If Elon Musk had come out and said in 2008 that we are going to deliver the brand new Tesla Roadster, and in 2025 he's like, not yet.
2033 is still going to be another
exactly. It's still
8 years.
That's when it's going to happen. You look at this and go, how in the hell are you getting it this wrong? But here we go. They are getting it this wrong, and they keep spending the money. And that's the ridiculous part about this. This is just stupid. And now downscaling it to 119 miles here to Pueblo. Stupid.
Now they're saying too that in light of the fact that there hasn't been any track laid, nor have they started work on any of the signal systems, it's important to keep in mind that Newsom's 2025-26 budget has not accounted for costs incurred for the recovery efforts stemming from the Los Angeles wildfires. So in a budget that's already strained and already going to be hammered over the wildfire recovery and rebuilding, they're not going to have the money to be able to do this. Yeah. They point out that to secure substantial federal funding, the rail authority represented that it could connect major metropolitan cities in California, but can now only deliver a system that is reduced substantially and delayed significantly and may connect just 2 random endpoints.
That's great.
At least. I know. This is like the
dumb.
bridge to nowhere, right?
It is.
At least $800 million in additional costs. So not what was planned, but additional costs were incurred just for, quote, environmental and logistical challenges, according to the compliance review.
I just
2 random points, 30 or 25 years, 2 random points, 35 years. What was it, 171 billion or something total when this thing's all said and done? 128 billion when this thing's all said and done. 2 random points.
Yeah, it's not, and you could make an argument even if they were going to spend that much extra money and maybe run the high rail system through 2 of the population centers. You might be able to make an argument there, but when you're running them through, what is it,
Merced and Bakersfield,
that's just that's nobody's going there back and forth.
No, they're ag communities.
Yeah,
they're like it's the breadbasket of California, and it's where you get all the ag production. And guess what? Ag drives semi-trucks.
Yeah.
And if they're going to put anything on train, it's going to be slow diesel train. Who the hell needs to take a high-speed rail?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Between Merced and Bakersfield. Like I said, it's like trying to take a train between Watkins and Greeley.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, why?
Or your example of, I'm going to take the train down to Trinidad? Yeah, the idea of it's like, what's there? I mean, again, convenient, sure, but this is ridiculous. And this is just like, of course, the grand vision of our own governor here, Polis, talking about high-speed rail that's going to run basically right along I-25, rather than dealing with where we really need a high-speed rail system, which is getting to the mountains. We need a high-speed rail system that
I'm willing
goes,
to grant.
Yeah.
I think that's a good investment.
At
Anyone's
a minimum,
been stuck on I-70.
At a minimum, it has to go to Vail, and it has to split and go to Winter Park. At a minimum.
And to that point, Bill, somebody points this out in the text messages. Remember, they haven't built the train to Boulder yet.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Yes, you're supposed to have one that goes to Boulder and Fort
If
Collins.
there's any place that would jump on a little light rail train, it's Boulder. And they haven't even done that.
And they're still paying the taxes for it. They're taking the taxes out of their pocket. They said, yes, we'd like to have it. And now RTD's like, new phone, who dis? No idea who you are. Sorry, don't recognize the phone line. Don't know. Who are you?
So, as Governor Jared Polis promotes his ideas for trains, please keep in mind that it's been an absolute debacle in California, funded in part by you, because you put some of the $7 billion of federal money into it. This is just, we're not Europe, we're not Japan, and with all the regulations that exist, we're never going to get to a place where we can even build this. All right.
Country's too big to have that kind of massive train.
Someone pointing out here the Hoover Dam was built in 5 years in 1931. That is amazing. Have you been to the Hoover Dam before?
Oh, God, yeah.
It's so cool.
It's incredible. It is an incredible tour, and that's an idea. Again, I appreciate the texture. Thank you so much, because that's an example of, again, jobs program. That is boots on the ground, hands in concrete, people doing the hard stuff, and I can see a large benefit for that type of public works project because of the employment aspect. I'm not in favor of employing a whole bunch of regulators that are going to be telling that we have to go subcontract for a whole bunch of other studies. That's crap. And when we come back from the break, I have got an enormous governmental boondoggle in which they're spending more than this rail system. And it has been not quite as spectacular a failure, but this program has been a massive failure. But it did provide some employment.
Interesting.
So this, we'll talk about it in a sec, but we're talking about a project that costs trillions. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. All right, let's talk about something that's affordable and will actually deliver results. Our friends over at Advanced Hair Restoration. If you're losing your hair, you need a simple solution that works. You'll want the best. Modern technology with top-rated physicians, something that's guaranteed to work. Guys, you need Dr. Tanya Pauls and her team at Advanced Hair. They've completely redefined hair restoration from the experience itself to their unmatched results. You got receding hairline or a bald spot, thinning hair, address them all with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment in a calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals. Advanced Hair has performed tens of thousands of these breakthrough treatments. And get this, your own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. No one in Denver can offer anything like the Advanced FUE found at Advanced Hair, and I highly recommend their team. Look, it all starts with your free consultation. Again, free consultation. I'm not going to charge you. Just see what the options are. Give them a call at 720-459-HAIR. 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. So refine your hairline with the team that's redefined hair restoration. 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. 720-459-HAIR. advancedhair.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Well, there's nothing that government does more that makes me want to just throw the bums out than spending taxpayer dollars on high-speed trains. Like, it is so dumb. In part because the regulations are so burdensome that to even get to the place where we're building it, you've already spent billions of dollars, and there's not even a track. Listen to this. California spent $7 billion from the federal government on high-speed rail. Never laid any track. $7 billion. Now they've reduced this train, which was supposed to go from San Francisco to Los Angeles and then down to San Diego, and with parts up to Sacramento as well, to just two random places, Merced and Bakersfield, which is where they drive semi-trucks because they deliver food to everybody. It's so stupid, and it's all driven with this mentality that, like, some guy went to Europe and liked riding the Channel train and is like, why don't we have these? It's because we're American libs dominate the whole process of building it. It's never going to happen.
The high-speed rails in Europe, one, Europe's a lot closer. It's more like the Beltway back east. Two, it goes between population centers. Merced, Bakersfield, not population centers in the Golden State. That's the dumbassery that's involved in this downscale. They're not even doing anything to do with LA, San Diego, San Francisco, nothing. We're going to two farming ag communities. That's who's getting the high-speed rail. High-speed rail has a role in Colorado, but it's only to get our butts up to the ski slopes or up to play in the mountains during the summer. That's it. Other than that, high-speed rail is mostly worthless. Now, I did talk about there is another giant boondoggle that I'm going to bring up, but I'm not as angry about this one as I am about the high-speed rail in California, because there have been people that have been able to build things. We have put people to work. We haven't done it just based on regulations and other stuff. In California, they haven't laid a single piece of rail for this high-speed rail, but the government has built some planes, and I'm talking about the F-35. The F-35 is an absolute mess as far as defense contract. They're looking at cost overruns of more than $2 trillion with a T.
Overruns?
Yeah.
Overruns.
Yeah.
So above what they've already spent.
Is what I'm reading. Yeah, somewhere around $2 trillion. So it's just awful. And the thing doesn't work very well. So it's not a very good plane. It's got software problems.
We deserve all the debt we're in.
Yeah.
We deserve all of this.
And it's silly. And so we shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be funding it. But at least there are people and engineers and people that did the hard work, and they put the bolts together, and they put the planes together, and we flew them in the air, and there were some problems with them. There was a crash. And
and then Yemen's going to launch a bunch of drones and knock them all down.
Yeah, exactly. But at least they built the planes, rather than in California, where they didn't lay a single bit of track and spent $7 billion. And here's the thing, Jeff. I know that if we wanted to run a contest and we said, hey, first 10 colors of the Jeff and Bill show, help us build high-speed rail, we probably could at least lay some track. I'm not saying that we necessarily would come in, on time or on budget or anything else, but a bunch of random people that listen to the Jeff and Bill show, I'm pretty certain could use $7 billion to lay some track, a little bit, even if it's just us out there in the hot sun of the summer going cling, cling, cling. We get it done.
On the railroad.
Exactly. We get it done.
The guys used to do this, and they built from both sides, and you had the Golden Spike in Utah and all that. We used to build stuff. Ezra Klein's exactly right. Democrats can't build anything. And I would at least be a little sympathetic if we're going to be spending taxpayer dollars, and the Democrat belief that the government is really this force for good, if you actually built anything.
Yeah, if they made the argument about being an economic driver because we're putting people to work. Look at all the people that we are employing to do public works projects. And the reason that I always focus on the idea of employing them for public works projects is because that is the greater good to everybody, regardless of who you voted for, because it doesn't matter if you voted for the guy in charge or not, but you get to use the new park down the street that was built that way. Those public works projects do have a benefit if done properly. But here's an example of what should have been a public works project in California that couldn't find its rear end with a map. They can't lay a single inch of track after spending $7 billion, and they've gone from a timeline of what should have started in 2008 when it was approved, should have been completed 5 years ago, and they think in another decade or so. That's stupid. That is dumb. That is not a project that's working.
So no one's going to trust government. It just adds to the sense of distrust that people have towards government because you're taking so much money and nothing ever gets delivered for it. I mean, even projects that would save lives, Bill, there's a bridge down in San Diego to a place called Coronado.
Yeah.
And people jump off of it. It's a sad thing, right?
Man.
So they want to put up nets to protect that, okay? They're expecting it's going to take a decade.
What?
A decade to put nets up to stop people from jumping off. Like, can you light a fire somewhere? Like, if you're the project of this and, like, another day goes by and another person jumps off the bridge, maybe you're going, can we speed this dang thing up a little bit? This isn't just it's a jobs program to your point, but like every day's got to be a reminder of how you didn't get the stupid net up and people died.
And the other part is if we can build the Hoover Dam in that kind of timeline, we can put up a net. Pretty sure we can put up a net a little quicker than building a giant dam.
They were pointing out, though, that the Hoover Dam has the highest worker death rate of any project in our nation. 1 to 2 deaths per day.
Ooh. Okay, I can't say what's coming through. No, I can't do that. No. I can't say that. No, that would be bad. Bad host. Can't do that one. No. Yeah, this is, it's just so frustrating. The idea of the overspend and where the money is going and isn't going, and the fact that they're not trying to. And I understand, the death rate at the Hoover Dam, but we did get it done, etc. So, and I'm not 110% excited, but they're not building anything, and that's part of the problem. Is you've got some ideas and you've got some space to talk about being able to build stuff, and if the government is going to make your community better, one of the things we talked about, that one of the best things for Governor Polis to do in our communities is when you have some of those public works projects going on, putting up signs. Mayor Mike Kaufman in Aurora has done that and said, here's what Mayor Mike Kaufman said was going to happen in this building here is being done by, and this road improvement is being done by. That's nice PR because you're seeing the improvement that your taxes are going for as you're driving by.
But in Colorado, you have trains that have never been built between here and Boulder. You have the 16th Street Mall delayed, over cost. You got DIA's terminal. That thing's never going to be finished.
Never.
So,
never.
anyways, don't trust the government. Bottom line. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, we're about finished. We know where the end line is, and we'll get there in a second here. This is Denver's talk station, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's been a great program today. A Biden-appointed judge halts Trump's effort to deport the family of the Boulder terrorist. Is this a commitment to due process or just another example of Democrats putting America last? We debated that. Plus, the federal government spending $7 billion on high-speed rail in California, and not a single track was laid. If you missed any of this, you can go to 710knus.com to download the podcast, 710knus.com to download the podcast. Bill, tomorrow I want to get into this.
Yeah.
Trump administration makes new federal employees write essays to prove their MAGA loyalty.
So you're saying it's a creative writing assignment. But is it fiction or nonfiction?
That's funny.
Thank you.
This is actually true. As the government hiring freeze nears its end, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management has released new guidelines for hopeful federal employees. They're going to have to write a 200-word essay. Actually, they have to answer 4 200-word essay questions to be considered. Questions include an inquiry into which of Trump's executive orders have been most significant in their lives.
And why he's the bestest president of all time.
Ever. Yes. I want to, and in fact, I'm going to give Bill a little homework assignment. I want Bill 200 words on your admiration of Donald Trump.
Can I use the F word? Just a question. Just wondering.
Not on air. It's going to have to be read tomorrow on air.
I'm going to be able to read half my essay
Can Bill Thorpe pass the new federal hiring guidlines?
God, not if they're not grading on a curve. I'm screwed. I am so screwed.
All right, we'll cover that tomorrow. It'll be a fun debate. So if you missed the show, download the podcast. Charlie Kirk's up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, keep your head up. It's almost Friday. This is 710 KNUS.